the tape, let's grind. Shut up. The tape, the tape. Let's grind. The tape. We do it a little bit different around here.
We ain't gonna play. We ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
The tape. Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. We ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. We ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
The tape. Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. We ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape. The tape. Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape. The tape.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
The tape.
UGA game day, boy, we ball out. Pull up, put the whole conference in the doghouse. Leave them 6 feet, see me on the win streak. All-star status, go coach, and the bench deep. Right. Offense on 10, how we run it? Your best ain't nothing, we gon' send them boys punting. Yeah. Black and red, got them dead on arrival. Defense hunkered down for the tie. Hey, you don't want it with the dogs. Film guy on it, you don't want it with my dog. Break it down, play by play, that's the day-to-day. Yeah. They know we ain't come to play, boy, it's UGA. Right. Kirby Smart, I cannot play the fool. Back to back, we did not come to lose. Back to back, like we got something to prove. Pay your dues, dog nation on the move. What's up?
We do it a little bit different around here.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
The tape, the tape.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Shut up. Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape, the
Shut
tape.
up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape,
The
bro.
tape.
Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape.
Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
Shut up.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film Guy Network on a miraculous Monday evening. Don't know why, but it feels like Tuesday to me. Hopefully you had a great Monday this afternoon. Got a loaded show for you guys as always, but I'm going to start right here in this first and foremost. It's time to end a dream today. I'm gonna kill somebody's dream today. I'm gonna kill somebody's hopes today. I'm gonna kill an entire fan base's hopes and dreams today. Are y'all ready?
Damn.
Do you know what time it is?
What time?
What time?
We are a third of the way through the college football season, which means it's time. It's time to kill some dreams. It's time. I've seen enough. We've seen enough. It's time to take some of these title hopes and go ahead and throw them in the garbage. All right. So I got one team moving forward, hopefully every single week, that I'm going to go ahead and kill. So Missouri, you're the one this week. Missouri on the chopping block. Your title hopes are gone. You're struggling with way too many different things. Every week it feels like Mizzou, offensively or defensively, having a new concern. This week we can't run the ball. Next week we can't throw the ball. This week we can't stop the run. Next week we can't stop the pass. Something popping up every single week. Not a consistent area of concern for this football team, just kind of consistently not there. All right, and really on the offensive side of the football, having problems consistently moving the ball. All right, and that has been something throughout these first, 3 or 4 games. And here's the other thing, okay, about Missouri's title hopes in specific. All right, specifically speaking about Missouri, your title hopes this year, and therefore your college football playoff hopes, were largely due in part to a lot of people believing there was going to be some type of growth, right? Some type of maturation, some extra evolution between Brady Cook and this offense from Missouri. Cody Schrader leaves and everybody thinks, oh, maybe they have a running back problem. No, they do not. They have a lack of additional, growth in the quarterback and the wide receiver department. This football team has just not been able to do it. It isn't happening this year. Okay, it isn't happening this year for Missouri. And I don't know if anyone going into this year really thought that they for sure had national title aspirations, but they definitely thought there was a pathway to it. I'm going to tell you right now, whether you make a playoff or not, I'm going to go ahead and X out any title hopes that anybody has for Missouri. And here's the good news, fellas. With death comes life.
I was going to say, because
with death comes life. I'm going to kill you, Missouri, but I'm going to bring life to you, another fan base. Look, I spent all offseason and really all preseason talking about Tennessee in 2025, saying, look, man, I know you might have a path this year to a college football playoff, but I really think the landscape of college football is yours to be had in 2025. No longer. Tennessee, I'm putting you on it. This year, you have national title aspirations. You have a window to go chase one this year. With that defense, the combination of the way you're running the football, and obviously a super talented offensive quarterback or an offensive option at the quarterback position, national title contenders, Tennessee, you move into the category of title contenders.
I'm glad you brought a team to life, because I was going to say, if we're killing teams by week 4 every week, we're going to be out of teams to this 12-team playoff. But no, Tennessee definitely is one of those teams that came into the picture and made itself kind of assert themselves as, okay, these are legit playoff contenders this year.
So it almost feels like to me, if that we're already killing Missouri's dreams of winning a title this year, is there ever a path for it to happen for them? Because this felt like their best shot in quite a while.
Who knows? Maybe Matt Zollers is that guy.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We don't want to kill them forever. With a 12-team playoff, they're an SEC team with really good NIL recruiting bases, okay? Plenty of opportunities moving forward for Missouri down the road. I just don't think it's this year. I think there are way better teams with way fewer holes, and the back-to-back performances of less, not necessarily illustrious performance from Missouri last 2 weeks have made them on the chopping block here this week. Can they get back in? Probably not. I'm going to kill them for good. Put them in the grave.
So if you kill a team this year, they're done. They can't
done.
come back?
I mean, they can prove me wrong, but I'm going to stand 10 toes down, done, dead. Can't have it.
Smelled fishier in the offseason. That's all I'm going to say.
Absolutely. All right, so I want to list off these title contenders that are in this group right now. You let me know if, A, you have anybody you're pushing back on, and B, okay, if you have anyone else you want to add to this list. I've got 6 programs: Texas, Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, Tennessee, and Ole Miss. Those are my 6 football teams right now today in late September, 4 weeks into the college football season, that I think, yes, I could see them winning a national title this year. Anybody else you want to add?
The only one I would even say maybe you consider is Oregon, but the way they've played those first 3 weeks wasn't great.
Right?
Maybe.
Or Miami.
Especially since the ACC is so down this year.
I'm waiting on Miami to play a Power 4 team that isn't Florida.
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll put them in this. I would imagine eventually Miami's making this list. I believe they got Va-Tech this weekend. If they beat Va-Tech by 40, come on down. Come on down into this list of 6 and make it a 7.
So what makes you put Ole Miss in and not Miami in? Because you're saying like Miami has only played Florida.
I'm an SEC homer. That's what I am. If you want to know who I root for the SEC, it just means more around these parts.
All right, just had to put it on the record.
Nah, to be honest with you, gut feeling and roster construction. I know for a fact they've got NFL players on that defensive line. Walter Nolan and Prince Uman Milan have played really, really well through the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. I'm putting them in a sold category. I feel good about it, plus the schedule.
I saw something the other day where it was like there was 6 different transfers out of Florida's program this offseason that have been like the top-graded player on several rosters.
Wow.
Yeah, they're going to have more of that coming up, I would imagine. They're going to have some more guys playing for other teams and doing so well. A lot said about Billy. Billy didn't recruit terribly.
No.
I never saw Billy take a guy, and I'm like, that guy will never play in the SEC. All right, there are some SEC football coaches, Shane Beamer, that I feel this way about. All right, you'll take a guy every once in a while, I'm like, what are you doing? That 5'11" white kid from Savannah ain't never playing for you, bro. What are you doing? They don't do any of this. So I'm good with the recruiting strategies there. But despite the fact that he can't seem to win football games, which is a problem considering you're the head coach.
Yeah, kind of your job.
Kind of your job. Yeah. Some would say that's in their job description of winning football. All right, welcome in. We got a loaded show for you guys tonight. Week 4 reactions coming hot and heavy. Obviously, you got the Sunday reaction show. We're bringing it right back to you tonight with the boys' reactions as well as some additional thoughts from yours truly. It's Monday, which means we're going to guess the lines. All lines brought to you by our friends over at BetUS. And of course, we have a Georgia-Bama preview because I saw the internet could not wait on this one. The internet could not wait at all. We've already put a film study out on it. Over 10,000 people have watched that. We'll be breaking down the keys to the win for both football teams tonight on the broadcast. But first and foremost, I want to give a quick shout-out to our friends over at BetUS. Are you looking for a new book this season? BetUS is indeed the answer. And, boys, I sent you this new BetUS read the other day, didn't I?
Yeah, but I mean, we send so much stuff in that group chat that's probably up at the top.
New read, BetUS. 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and 125% sign-up bonus. You're a dead SOB. On the next 2 deposits, up to $2,000 using code. We have a code now, boys. YouTube150. YouTube150 is the code over on BetUS. Run over there today. Again, 150% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 on your first deposit and 125% sign-up bonus on the next 2 deposits. You know what that tells me? BetUS not only encourages you to put money in there, but encourages you multiple times. You know? Multiple times to go ahead and put that money in there. Appreciate those guys over there at BetUS and appreciate you guys for supporting those who support us. Boys, week 4 reactions. Where do you want to start? Because I know where I want to start.
Where do you want to start?
Where do you want to start?
Well, I was thinking since you just killed Missouri, might as well talk about that game a little bit.
You want to? Let's go.
Yeah.
I gave my thoughts and analysis yesterday. Revolved for me around Missouri's inability to stop the run in key situations. I've got some additional stats on this football game as well. But what were you guys' immediate takeaways from this one?
Very much similar to you. I did not expect a Vanderbilt team of all teams to come in and kind of push around Missouri for the entire game. I mean, obviously you ended up winning that game because Vanderbilt got a Vanderbilt, but it was very interesting how much more physical Vanderbilt looks than Missouri.
Yeah, Vandy had 2 opportunities to win that football game, one at the end of regulation and obviously tie it back up right there in double overtime. Jonathan, what were your thoughts?
I think this just kind of confirmed my preseason thoughts of Missouri, where I thought the offense was going to be good. I thought Brady Cook and Luther Burden and the receiving core was good, but I still had some questions about the run game. You lose Cody Schrader, who put up SEC at historic numbers in that offense. I think people kind of forget that, and they look over the fact that he was perhaps the biggest producer on offense for them last year. And then also defensively, I believe they lost 7 out of 11 starters. So there was questions about depth, experience, and I think that kind of showed up on an SEC football field, whether it be Vanderbilt, a team that we kind of look down on. I think Vanderbilt's kind of proven that, hey, we're maybe on the up and coming, but also Missouri maybe got mislabeled a little bit. Maybe that wasn't their own doing. I think that they just kind of got put in this category of, hey, good quarterback, good wide receiver. That seems to be the deal nowadays for these title contenders, but that's not enough.
Yeah, lost a couple of tackles, I think you said 7 of 11 starters on the defensive side of the football. There's a lot more attrition there than I think a lot of people led on to believe.
And I think we also have to realize the fact that Missouri's riding off of what they did to Ohio State in last year's bowl game. Like, everyone was so in on them after that, and it's kind of – that's not last year's team, and that really wasn't even a great representation of what those 2 teams were.
Now, I said yesterday that I think Vandy might be able to repeat this performance against other football teams because of how they run the football, this option-based spread option, using Pavia's legs as a major contributing factor to this team. However, Vandy played this football game extremely perfect. They had a 65-yard touchdown to open the game. That was their only explosive, like real explosive throughout this football game. Their next 4 scoring drives were the definition of perfection. They had a 10-play field goal drive. All right, so they're just icking the ball down the field, all right, just performing and executing perfectly just to get 4 and 5 yards to move the sticks, all right. They had another scoring possession, a short field, got a short field on downs, kicked a 57-yarder, all right, didn't move the ball at all right before the half, didn't have to. They were given 3 points essentially. Their other touchdown drive in regulation, they had an 8-play scoring drive. I think the longest play on that drive was 13 yards. So you're talking about really just dinking and dunking all the way down the field and maximizing when you do so, right? Getting into the red zone and either settling for points via a field goal or scoring on a touchdown. They had an 8-play drive that missed a field goal at the end of regulation, a 50-yarder that would have ultimately probably won that football game. I know Missouri would have had another crack at it, but they didn't do anything with it right there at the end of regulation to win it. So I think Vandy played an absolute perfect football game, and Mizzou kind of squeaked out of this one. Thank the Lord above due to some missed field goals. But I'm killing them anyways.
Yeah. I think another aspect we have to look at this is What is Clark Lee doing for his job right now?
Oh, he's getting a raise.
He's getting a raise.
I don't know if he gets an extension.
Is he getting looked at by other schools, you think?
Hell no.
You don't think so?
Bro, to get hired out of there, you got to go 8-4.
You just
Maybe 6-6. Make a bowl. We might hire you.
He's doing standards that are good for Vanderbilt. We can't overlook that you just lost to Georgia State.
Facts.
Doing that does not get you looked at by other jobs. But by competing against Missouri,
You save your own.
yeah, you save your own job at Vanderbilt by, hey, we have a quarterback. We're kind of making something happen.
Ain't nobody out here getting rid of their guy to hire Clark Lee.
No. That's all I'm saying. But I mean,
No offense, Clark. You give great monotonous speeches.
I'm just saying, like, it looks like the trajectory of his outlook is in a complete 180. We're coming into the season, it was like, I mean, why would you fire him just because it's Vanderbilt? Now it's like, hey, Vanderbilt
Clark Lee.
Good
job.
Good job, Clark. Yeah.
Give a little kudos to Clark Lee 4 weeks into the season. Didn't think we'd be doing that. All right, enough about Missouri and Vanderbilt. Do y'all think Vandy does that to anybody else?
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah, I just think that when you
I think Pavia gets hurt. The odds of that happening are a little bit higher than them making another top team sweat it.
I will
into the
say,
fourth quarter.
Auburn better be careful.
Yeah, for sure. Auburn better be careful moving forward, period. All right. K-State. I told him.
Ew.
I told him. Hey, Provo's not the one. That is not the place to go into late at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, East Coast, and thinking you're going to walk out with a dub. That football team defensively really, really committed to stopping the run. And Kansas State, man, a turnover-prone football team just couldn't get it going. They ran the football relatively effectively in this football game. They got listen to this. Check this out. All right, BYU forced multiple turnovers and had a punt return for a touchdown. However, they won this game by 29 points despite the fact that they got outrushed and outgained by over 200 yards. They had fewer first downs than who did they play? K-State. Okay, they were worse on third down than K-State by a mile. Oh, and they lost time of possession by 7 minutes. They won by 29 points.
wow.
Yeah.
It's the definition of if you win explosives and you win the turnover battle. The rest of it almost doesn't even matter at this point.
Yeah, and I mean the biggest thing was they took Avery Johnson out of the game. Avery Johnson was not the biggest factor for Kansas State. He didn't lead the team in rushing yards, so that was the big. He didn't even lead the game in passing yards either. So and that's kind of like K-State's one weapon. Like it's either Avery Johnson's going to make a play with his arm, or he's bailing out of the pocket. He's going to make it up with his legs. And BYU contained him, and they completely turned that game upside down. And when that happens on the road at BYU, or in fact anywhere in college football, when a game gets that lopsided so quickly, you're in for a disaster.
Yeah, that was one of those train wreck games for K-State where you did 90% of the things that are right, and then the 10% were so catastrophically wrong that it caused you to lose in the way you did. Like, K-State didn't play a terrible game. Didn't play a great game, but the fact is, I mean, the turnovers and explosives you allow are going to do you in all the time.
Have y'all seen the clips of the BYU Cougar?
No.
You haven't seen this guy? Kirby, you'll like this. When he scores, every time they score a touchdown, they add a level of foldable tables onto one another. And he does explosive push-ups.
Oh, I have seen this. Yeah.
On each level, and does the required
On like
push-ups.
these cheap plastic foldable tables?
Yes.
They're lifetime
And then at the
tables.
end, he stands on one of them and does a flip off of it.
Yeah.
The BYU Cougar is a menace.
Guy's a
okay.
menace.
I don't know who's in the suit, but dude's probably jacked. Absolutely
I
shredded.
would think
'cause
so.
Immensely, immensely strong. Unlike that Kentucky Wildcat who does, I'm not going to call them female push-ups, but push-ups on the knee.
Oh,
Push-ups on the knee?
come on now.
And they only scored 12
At
points.
that point, just do some jumping jacks, buddy.
Amen. Amen, right? That Cougar definitely does CrossFit. That's what the chat says.
Probably, yeah.
In the Cougar Fit.
Definitely trains to be an American Ninja Warrior.
You know, you guys know this, but I don't know if the show does. Harry Dog, friend of the show, watches.
You know there's more than one.
He didn't tell me that in the Harry suit. He made sure he came back and told me in his civilian outfit. You know, because Harry's not supposed to talk.
He's not.
No.
They treat Harry Dog like Santa Claus in Athens. It's the weirdest shit ever.
Yeah.
Like,
They're saying my audio's a little low, so crank me up just a hair if you can. If not, don't worry about it.
are you really about to do the entire rest of the show with fly guts on your hand?
No, don't worry about
You
that.
keep swatting at him.
Don't
like
worry about it. I mean, he's dead already. Maybe I already wiped it off.
Disgusting.
Don't worry about me, dog. You do you. Any other thoughts on BYU, K-State?
Nah.
Told you.
Big
Wrong
10,
one.
Big 12's
Not
cooked.
the one to be doing. Just a hair there, Jay.
Okay.
All right, let's go to this. What's up?
I was
Big
say
12
Big 12's
continued?
cooked. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's ugly stuff. It's ugly stuff going on in the Big 12. Now, you're saying they're cooked from a national title contender standpoint or just cooked in general?
I mean, both.
You think it's a bad conference?
They're going to get someone in. Obviously, they have to, but there's no one in there in the Big 12 that I would even say has a fighting chance against any of these other teams that we're talking about. Like the 6 you just listed would absolutely murder any decent Big 12 team or any Big 12 team that they decide to put out there.
This Utah-Oklahoma State game was absolutely gross.
Disgusting.
This was one of the grossest football games I think I've ever watched. The fact that they scored a combination of 42 points or 41 points is a little bit baffling to me. Listen to this stat, Kirby. There was 30 total possessions in this football game. 30.
It's not
there
bad.
were 30 total possessions in this football game, 140 offensive snaps. Of those 30 offensive possessions, 14, almost half of them, ended in 3 plays or fewer, a punt or a turnover. Okay? So I'm not talking about 7-play drive through a pick. I'm talking about within 3 plays, turn the ball over or punted. That's how bad offense was in this football game. It was atrocious.
Big 12 defense, legit.
Now, I've heard this rumor. I've heard this. Every time I turn a Big 12 game on, they're like, hey, man, this was a conference used to known for offense. Now we're known for defense.
This is what the SEC wants to be.
Or you just known as a conference that doesn't have good offense right about now. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a bunch of really, really bad offense.
Did we turn to Utah game?
Yeah, we're already on to the Utah
Oh,
game.
okay, yeah. Utah is just Iowa with better uniforms.
Ooh,
That's
a
what they
take.
are.
Now.
Yeah, that's what they are now.
Did you hear the report on Cam Rising that they're just waiting for him to get an arm back? They're waiting for the life to come back onto the football before he's released fully to play.
Or his Social
but
Security
they're waiting for the life to come back on the ball. And I'm just thinking, if you're waiting for the life to come back into the football on Cam Rising,
Yeah.
did
Was
he
it
ever
the-
have
That's
it?
what I was about to say.
Did he ever have life on the ball, or was it just kind of good decisions?
Anytime I watch Cam Rising, my takeaway was never, holy cow, this man can really piss on the football when he wants to. It was just, hey, that's a tough guy right there. That man can just do it all by himself, take over a football game if he needs to.
A real football player.
Yeah.
Yeah, a real man's man is Cam Rising, but not exactly one designated a chooch.
No.
If you know what I mean.
No.
So,
Was the combined score of the game lower than the combined age of the quarterbacks?
yes. Combined age of the quarterbacks was 47 in this football game. They combined for 41 points.
Ugh.
And I had something in this. Oh, yeah, I don't know what it is. 1/3 of the passes were completed in this football game. Oh, no, excuse me. 1/3 of the passes completed by Oklahoma State were for more than 20-plus yards.
Damn. It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
That's about all they had offensively. Ollie Gordon can't get it going. This is a major
No.
problem through 4 weeks.
None of the marquee running backs have really gotten it going. Quinshawn Judkins has been well.
Genty's been
Ashton
getting after
Genty's
it.
been good.
But Quinshawn wasn't really until like this last weekend.
Right.
And that was 180-yard explosive.
Yes. But, yeah, you're right. Donovan Edwards hasn't been able to get it going. In fact, it's been the backup for Michigan that's really brought some life. Yeah, something like that. That's brought some life to the offense. But you're right. Like these top-name running backs coming into the season, it really hasn't been them taking over the stage at this position.
It's been Genty and Dylan Sampson and then some surprises, if
Yeah.
you will,
Right.
across all of college football at the running back position. All right, we got some Michigan fans in the chat, believe it or not today. Let's talk about this USC-Michigan game. How about a dub for Sharon Moore?
Good for him, man.
How about a dub?
I mean,
What?
it just feels like anything
Are
Michigan.
you throwing shade?
No, it just feels like anything Michigan does up to this point is going to be so inconsequential because we all know what the team is. We all know that basically you just have to put them in a box, force them to get in a situation where they have to pass the ball, and there's not going to be enough teams down the stretch that you can just kind of bully your way through.
Why? Why not? If they can do it to a top 10 team in
They
USC.
couldn't do it to a top 10 team in USC.
Yeah,
USC played a perfect second half with the exception of one play where the 2022 defense came back, and that literally cost them the game. Other than that, they had them in a box.
Same note. I said, I feel like UM escaped a great performance from USC's defense.
Yeah, they did. I mean, that second half was picture. Like, if you wrote down what's the perfect second half to have, up until the last 2 minutes of that game, USC did it.
They didn't allow a first down in the second half until that last drive.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Michigan forced 5 3-and-outs from USC. I think that's one of the
and a pick six.
I think that's what won the pick six was the big momentum play that kind of swung everything into Michigan's favor. But the 5 3-and-outs, and I think 3 of them were in the first quarter. I want to say like the first 3 possessions were an absolute train wreck for USC. You got one all the way back into your own end, and you couldn't really make anything shake. And you just got off to a slow start, and these slow starts on the road, and it felt like they weren't executing on offense, and they just got put into tough positions. Sometimes they were shooting themselves in their own foot, but so I think the slow start just kind of built up into what happened later on in the football game, and especially early on when Michigan was running the football well, I think it had to do with the fact that Michigan was maybe not sustaining drives that were resulting in touchdowns, but they were making the defense stay out there for like 5 or 6 plays, maybe even 8 plays, and then your offense goes out there quick 3 and out. You got to get right back on the football field.
And Michigan survived 2 massive momentum swings in the favor of USC. The peanut punch from Gentry, and then the fumble recovery that ended up being automatic first down for USC because the running back stripped it.
That was almost the play of the game.
It was a huge play in that football game to save that
USC scored
possession.
a touchdown on that.
They did, and they scored after the Gentry fumble as well. So I think it was a 14-point swing right there, maybe even a little bit more if you want to assume that Michigan scores on the possession that 78 Smith picks up that fumble.
Right. It's such a shame because other than a sloppy first half and one really, really bad play in the second half, this was such a waste of a really good performance from a Lincoln Riley team. Like everyone kind of came out and expected, the Lincoln Riley teams of old where you come out and you just get punched in the mouth, you pushed around. And the first half kind of looked like that, but they really fought back in the second half and dominated this Michigan team. And for it to all go to waste, it really stinks because Lincoln Riley could have really changed, not the trajectory of his career, but kind of changed the vibe around what people thought about it.
I will say this. It's been 7 years of the Lincoln Riley experience now.
Yeah.
We're 7 years into this. You have to give this guy credit for, at this point, stamping a defense. Like, it took this long. It took way too long for this to happen. Probably wasted a Heisman caliber quarterback and the number 1 overall pick.
Couple of them.
And not having a defense, couple of them is a great point right there. But you have to give the guy credit for at least establishing it now. Took way too long, wasted way too many opportunities, but at least has turned the page on this.
And they still have opportunity to capitalize off of this season because the schedule, they don't have to play Ohio State. They don't have to play Oregon this year. You'd play Notre Dame in the very last game of the year, so who knows what Notre Dame looks like at that point. Who knows what USC looks like at that point to that fact as well. But you got UCLA, Nebraska is going to be a test for you. Washington, Rutgers, Maryland, and then Penn State's going to be your other big test. But outside of that, you still have plenty of opportunity. Heck, you could even lose 2 games, and you could still potentially be on that bubble of being put in the playoff. But the goal is you got to win out now.
All right, Kirby, you proposed this question about a former SEC West team, so I'll let you lead it off. I guess that's you in the show notes.
With LSU?
Yeah.
Did you watch that game?
Yeah, I watched a good bit of that football game. It was a third screener for me. I was taking a peek. I wouldn't say I was primo in that one.
Yeah, that was a third screen for us too. It was just you kept watching that game thinking, surely LSU is going to take control of this game. Surely they're going to stop making mistakes. Surely they're going to stop letting UCLA kind of march down the field on them. And it just never really happened till the late second half. It was like, what took them so long? And now you look at it, you've strung together a loss against USC, which wasn't great, a pretty mid performance against Nickel State.
And Nickel State, yeah.
Bad performance against South Carolina. Now, granted, that was on the road and you came back to win. And now it's a questionable performance against UCLA. Like, we're a third through the season. You haven't really turned in a really good performance where we said, okay, LSU's a legit team. Like,
and obviously they just received a bunch of bad news this week as Harold Perkins is out for the rest of the year. I think a lot of people were missing out on Perkins because of the number switch. I didn't see him a lot in LSU football games that I watched when healthy. So that's a name that I keep seeing in mock drafts as a potential first-round draft pick. Obviously, that's been impacted now. I don't think he would have been in there anyways.
No.
I think that was a lot of, hey, this guy was good as a freshman. We know this name. Let's put him in a mock draft. But I'm talking mock drafts for this purpose. Outside of the tackles, Will Campbell and Emory Jones, who are the guaranteed that's an NFL first-round draft pick on this LSU roster?
Guaranteed none.
All right, and this is rare for this football program.
Yeah.
This is a football program for the last, as long as I've been alive, or been conscious of football since the early thousands. This is a football team that's a top 3 roster every single year in this conference, top to bottom from a talent perspective. No matter who else is great in this conference, I know LSU is going to have great talent. I don't think they're there right now. As much as we want to crap on Brian Kelly, and it's partly his fault because he's not recruiting at the rate that he should be, obviously, but this isn't a top 3 roster in this conference, and normally we can just mark them down as that. They're not that. So they're just not at the caliber of an LSU roster that we are typically used to, and I think that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, they're on my ban list now.
Yeah, not.
I don't bet on LSU.
You're not
anymore.
busting a nuss?
No, I'm not. They've got me too many times. LSU's on my permanent ban list for the foreseeable future. Brian Kelly, more specifically.
Yeah, it's just weird to watch because they look like a team that should be very, very good. You see all the parts there, and it never seems to shake out on Saturdays.
Too many up and downs under Brian Kelly for LSU. Like the South Carolina game, that felt like a huge up for them because you came back from down 17-0 on the road against an SEC team that was trending in the right direction, and everything was going in their favor. You found a way to crawl back out of that one, and you come out with a win on the road. And then you just continue to have these ups and downs. Like you lose to USC, and then you back that up with a bad performance against Nicholls State, and then you go and play a UCLA team that everybody is like, this is one of the worst Power 4 football teams in the country right now. They got rolled over by Indiana. And then you go and do that, and you kind of play this back and forth game with them a little bit. There's so many up and downs.
And not to mention the way Brian Kelly, and he's always kind of been like this, but the way Brian Kelly has been handling these games has not done him any favors in the PR department. He's very much kind of that attitude of, well, it's our players. We're not executing. We're making mistakes on the field. He's not accepting a lot of responsibility, and I think it's starting to wear thin.
Rank number 2 for coach who accepts the least amount of responsibility.
Yeah.
A solid rank number 2. Rank number 1 is gold jacket. Like, just walk into the Hall of Fame, Hugh Freeze. My God, dude, could you throw any more people under a bus? It damn sure ain't Hugh Freeze's fault that Auburn sucks right now. We all know that. If we know anything after those press conferences, that's the only thing we know. I will say this about their offense, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you seem like you watched a lot of this football. The launch point on this offense is way too consistent for a non-mobile quarterback.
Yes.
They 3-step drop. I'm throwing the ball from right here, defense, way too often. Way too often. And I think it's part of the reason why they get dialed up in pressure so much, because I know he's going to be right there.
Yeah, you don't have to attack a player. You have to attack a spot.
Yeah.
And you're there, and it works 90% of the time because, let's be honest, Garrett Nussmeier is no Jaden Daniels.
But we could still at least like give him some play action rollouts. We could roll to the right. We can do something. He's good enough arm talent wise to make throws on the run. I feel like defenses say, okay, they don't run the ball. They don't run the ball well. And they throw the ball from that one spot. Okay, well, our defense just got real easy to plan for today for your offense. So I think that's something they've got to change.
And
or
I think
address.
that's not only doing a disservice to Garrett Nussmeier, but that's doing a disservice to the tackles that you have. Like you have these two world-class
tackles. Making it too hard on them.
Yeah, and you have these two world-class talents at the tackle positions. Like, why not use that to your advantage and make it to where that's a strong point and a weak point for the defense?
Still getting comments about audio being way too low. We kind of already hit on it, so let's transition to it right now. Hugh Freeze is getting cooked on social media, by the national media, by everybody right about now. And in my opinion, well worth it. This guy needs it right about now.
Is there anything worse for a coach when a former player that, like, one major game for you throws you under the bus and says you don't care about the players at all?
Now, look, you're referencing Bo
Wallace.
Bo Wallace. I about called him Bo Walker. You're referencing Bo Wallace going on social media and basically talking about how Hugh Freeze had this man shoot up for every single game just to get him out there and just to get him to compete, because Hugh Freeze's contract at Ole Miss was predicated off of wins. If you get wins, you get bonuses. So they did absolutely everything to get this guy onto the field, says Bo Wallace, and never once did anything to protect Bo or in the national media or go out and defend Bo. It was always, I'm going to throw Bo Wallace up underneath the bus. And this is exactly what we're seeing right now at Auburn. So, no, it's never a good look. However, Bo Wallace ain't exactly the best mouthpiece for this type of stuff. I don't think Bo Wallace has 100%, Q rating, if you will.
No, he doesn't. But, again, like, it's just the optics, because you would have to kind of dive. Bo Wallace hasn't played in like 10 years. You kind of have to know the college football lore and dive deep into that. The casual fan that reads that and goes, former Ole Miss quarterback played under Hugh Freeze, says he doesn't care about players, and then you go and watch the Hugh Freeze presser.
Yeah.
It's not a good look.
It's not at all. And I just, for once, and he'll never do this. He's not allowed. Coaches aren't allowed to do this. But I wish he would come to the microphone and go, guys, I just thought I'd make Peyton Thorne better, and I can't do it. And that's on me. The rest of it, everybody else sucks. Running backs can't hold on to the ball. We can't play at the quarterback. I'm calling great plays. And the Cal soundbite was the best. All right. The ones this weekend, we don't have a quarterback. We got to find somebody that's not going to throw it to the other team. That stuff is victim blaming to an extent. But the stuff he said after the Cal game, on Monday. He came to the media on Monday after watching the film and looked at them in their face and told them, I didn't call a single bad play Saturday.
Yeah.
Not a one. Didn't call a single bad play. We just can't execute the plays that I call. Buddy, if your players can't execute the plays that you're calling, you probably aren't calling good plays. Wow. Am I right? I mean,
yeah.
Jesus. Just left and right. I don't know how it's defendable. If there are people out here defending, I don't know how, unless you're just like, yeah, nothing ever bad happens. Everyone's good.
Well, and this seems like this is the last thing you would want to do for a team that is obviously struggling this season. The last thing you want to do is potentially divide your locker room and make your team even more divided than maybe it potentially even is, because having some bad losses on your resume and having some bad losses throughout the year, that's obviously going to create some type of conflict, I would think. But putting it all on yourself and saying it's not me, it's all my players, it seems like all Hugh Freeze is worried about is I'm making sure that I'm going to keep my job. I'm not really concerned about what's happening on the football field anymore, but I want everybody to know this has nothing to do with me. I'm doing everything right in my power to make sure that this football team is good, but my players just aren't living up to my standard.
Not only is it a problem for this year dividing the roster, next year you're going to have a huge issue because I don't think they have a golden goose recruit at quarterback right now, do they?
No.
You're probably going to have to go into the portal. And
Trying to
why?
Deuce Knight.
They're attempting to flip Deuce Knight, but there's been some feet dragging there. it
Right,
looks like.
and why would you want to play for a guy that is habitually throwing his players under the bus?
I don't know. This guy recruits really well, though. There's no doubt about that. Whatever
Well,
he says on the recruiting trail works with mom, dad, and player. So the dude can recruit. There's no doubt about that. But in terms of whether or not you're going to get in front of a microphone and throw your whole team under the bus, I guess that's just accepted if you go play for Hugh Freeze.
And my thing too is I feel like you don't have to do this in the media. Like,
No.
do that
You do
in
it
the
plenty.
film room.
You do it plenty in the film room in front of the
That's
whole
what-
entire
exactly,
team. In
exactly.
front of the whole entire team, you can let everybody know, hey, quarterback's not good enough. We're gonna make a change here. Everybody knows that. We're making a change. Guess what? Hank Brown's not good enough. So guess what? Now we're just screwed because I didn't go out and make a move as a head football coach. That's where it could settle. That's where it probably should settle. And by the way, I know I'm media, so I don't want to do this too much. But hey, I just wish one Auburn beat reporter would be like, hey, coach, you keep talking about how bad your quarterback play is. Why didn't you make a change in the offseason? You watched 12 games of it last year. What were you doing? Well, I thought he'd be better. Well, why'd you think he was going to be better? Because I thought I would be able to coach him to be better. Well, why can't you coach him to be better? Oh, I've now got to accept responsibility for the performance of my players? No, I'm not doing that. No way. No chance.
Not a good look at all.
No. We got more football games to talk about. Let's talk about the big one, Tennessee, Oklahoma. What were you guys' thoughts?
Oklahoma's defense, legit.
Legit.
I loved it.
Being wasted right now.
It is, and that's a shame. It's a shame that defense is being wasted because that was kind of everybody's talking point for both Texas and Oklahoma coming into this conference was, oh, it's SEC football, baby. This is big boy football. This isn't the Big 12 anymore. And I think that both Texas and Oklahoma have kind of put that to the side and said, we don't care. Like, we were ready to step up to the plate and take on this challenge. And I think the best thing for Oklahoma is that Brent Venables got himself a defense. You want your defensive minded head coach to be what his strong suit is.
And it wasn't looking like that year one.
No, it wasn't. That was a huge step back of like, whoa, what was going on here? But I think that I love the defense. I thought they had a great game plan. I thought that they attacked that game the way that they should have to put themselves in a winning position, and they did. Your quarterback play was just atrocious for pretty much 3 quarters.
This was such a weird game to me. I don't think I've ever seen a college football game where you get 2 massive takeaways in your own territory. You get the ball back, big fumbles, big momentum swings, and you immediately give the ball back
It's
to
just
your
like,
opponent.
yeah, I don't want this.
I've never seen that before. And I mean, those 2 plays, you have to wonder if they don't end in fumbles, they don't end in turnovers. Maybe you kick a field goal on both of them. Maybe you score a touchdown. How different is that game?
Oh, totally different.
And it's so weird because it felt like everything else was kind of inconsequential in comparison to those 2 plays. Now, obviously, Oklahoma's defensive line did a really good job against pressuring Nico. Their secondary held up the best they could. You could see towards the end they're getting a little tired, and the running backs started to get some big holes on them. But other than that, it felt like somewhat of 2 evenly matched teams, with the exception of
one offense being anemic.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then one team lost all the momentum. Tennessee was able to capitalize on it, and it was just a slow death for Oklahoma.
I have one primary takeaway from this, other than what you guys talked about. I don't think Tennessee fans are ready to be good.
Why do you say that?
I don't think they are. I don't think they're ready to be good because they're still, like yesterday, I get on that Sunday show and I'm like, hey, man, had all this hype going into this about how y'all ain't going to y'all ain't going to call off the dogs, personal vendetta. Y'all going to go out here and kill folks. There was no doubt they were winning that football game, except for I thought if it played 5 quarters, I thought they were going to have to – Tennessee was going to have to figure out how to move offense again, because the whole second half they were like, there's no way y'all beat us today. There's no way. And I understand that. Tackles go out, all that good stuff. But even the coach after the game was like, we didn't play our brand of football. We kind of felt the game was in hand, so we started to squat on it. That's not the way they do things. And that was my only takeaway. It's like, hey, y'all out here kicking onside kicks up 30 against Kent State, letting everybody know we're going to step on throats today. Then we go to Oklahoma, we lose a tackle, and all of a sudden we can't play offense. Now we got to sit on a 14-point lead. Like, that's not how y'all play. I thought that was a little weird.
That was another weird thing, and I doubt this is true, but it looked like Josh Heupel didn't really want to beat the Oklahoma team. He wanted to win the game for sure. He did not want to beat Oklahoma.
And look, the game was in hand.
Yeah.
I know this, but it wasn't. 6.5 minutes left. There's a 12-point lead. And the Hawkins kid's moving the ball. Whether it was because he was just running for his life, playing hospital ball.
Getting some roughing the passers.
Getting some PIs, whatever it was, Oklahoma's offense was moving the football towards the end of that game with the backup quarterback. So I thought had that game gone another 10 minutes, Tennessee would have had to been going back into acceleration mode, and that's just I didn't expect to see it. You know what I'm saying? I expected to see Tennessee was the way better football team step on their throat. That's what I thought was going to happen. By the way, Michael Hawkins just announced is the official starter.
Wow.
Yeah.
So why do you think Tennessee fans aren't ready to be good?
Oh, because they just weren't. They weren't quite ready for any type of anything other than congrats on the great win. You're a national title contender. You're perfect. Everything was like everything's got a butt. Like I tweeted out, hey, great defense. Y'all still have yet to play a good quarterback.
Yeah.
Everything's got to come with a butt, Brooks. Why don't you just say we're good? I did. The other night, or in that Sunday film study, I talked about how good Oklahoma's defense was. And the first comment was, y'all just aren't ready to admit that Oklahoma's defense is good. In that video, I said they were a top 10 defense in the country.
Well, I regret to inform you that most college football fan bases are never ready to be quote-unquote good. They just become progressively more insufferable as the teams get better.
You know what? This is true, and I apologize to Tennessee fans because I dared say that there was another linebacking core in this country that was worth a shit. And, oh, my God, Georgia fans were like, this guy doesn't believe in us anymore. What the hell?
Well, I think especially for Tennessee fans for so long, they've kind of been the ugly stepchild that gets kicked around a lot by a lot of fan bases in the SEC, regardless of like what their situation is. Even in 2022, when they had a really good offense, people were still doing it. And so when they kind of feel like this balanced team, when it feels like you have all the pieces on offense and you're getting there on defense, like you are a good defense in this conference, they don't know how to act because they feel like they should be rewarded for everything that they've done so far, and that it should just be, Tennessee, you are a good football team, and that's it, full stop. But instead it is like you still are somewhat of I shouldn't say flawed football team, but you're not a perfect football team. But I don't think that there is a perfect football team in the country right now. So that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
Facts. Were we too hard on Clemson? I wasn't. I tweeted out while they were getting beat by 30 against Georgia that I thought they'd still win the ACC. This is before seeing Miami, though. I don't know if I feel this way now. I feel that they're the second best team in the ACC, which is abhorrent.
Yeah. It's definitely that, but it's weird because everyone was so low on them coming out. I mean, it was like Dabo Swinney might not be the answer here. It might be time to start looking to move on. The roster, you just look at the talent, it's not really good. And then they've had 2 offensive explosions now, App State and NC State.
I was about to say, is this the last weekend we give people credit for beating the shit out of NC State? It's got to be, right? After this, we know you struggle against Western Carolina. You get your doors blown off twice by Tennessee and Clemson. We can just put that down as a marquee win.
Bad team.
It just stop. We can just stop with this. And that's my note. Can we stop? Can we stop with this? NC State got beat like shit. Let's make an observation out of it. The observation is NC State is bad. Okay, NC State is bad. Guys, did you know that App State got beat 48-14 at home this week?
I did.
Y'all know that, right?
Yeah, not a good
South
football
Alabama
team.
beat the ever-loving piss out of them. No different than Clemson did. So just stop. Just stop with the transitive properties. Please, please, please. Have y'all not learned anything about the world of college football. This stuff doesn't work. You can't do this.
Yeah, my notes are I'm not sending any apologies to Clemson right now because beating the crap out of NC State and App State does not move the needle for me, and it does not deserve you an apology for me. But I will say that I think Cade Klubnik deserves his flowers at this point because it was week 1. You get beat by Georgia. Cade Klubnik, he still sucks. We just can't get this going anymore. He has played with more confidence, and I think that's a big thing for Clemson, especially knowing what your conference looks like. It does feel like it is going to be you in Miami. Knowing that you're going to have a confident quarterback moving forward, and the offense itself looks to be moving with confidence, and they're finding their shots and they're finding their rhythm, that's the biggest thing for you because the defense was going to be good. We knew this, but getting the offense to where it is now, I think that's a big step forward.
I mean, they're a byproduct of their own recruiting standards, but if I said Clemson goes 11-1 this year or even 10-2, in my opinion, that's a successful coaching job.
Yep.
They've done a good job with that football team because it's not a top 5 roster in the sport. I wouldn't even consider it a top 8, top 9 roster in this sport right now.
Yeah, the last thing I will say is it did somewhat move the needle for me these last 2 games, not because of the offensive. Well, it is because of the offense. You would come into those games expecting, all right, Clemson's defense is just going to choke out App State. They're gonna muster up 30-something points to get a win. Nothing special here, and they have explosions. Now, again, like I said, I reiterate this. I know it was App State and NC State, but the fact that Clemson offense even showed some resemblance of life makes you feel like, all right, you know what? Maybe they're not as bad as we gave them credit for.
I think all the Bama fans sent this to their friends because I'm starting to see some tide roll into that chat. So shout out to you guys for being here tonight. Welcome into the broadcast. If you haven't hit that thumbs up button and haven't subscribed to this channel, please feel free to do so. I personally think, and we think we do this as well or better than anybody else in the internet space with regards to talking college football. So if you've enjoyed any portion of tonight's broadcast, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel as well. I do think some of the national narratives around Clemson have been a little bit harsh, but they're based off Clemson's standards. Clemson's standards are to be a top 5 football team. Clemson's standards are to be the kind of the standard, if you will, of the ACC. They're supposed to have ran that conference, and they've kind of taken a step back from that over the last 2 years. So I think they're kind of getting compared to that Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson standard because, to be honest, I would imagine that's the way Dabo Swinney talks about his program as well. Okay, so the standards are set by yourselves, and you've got to meet them. A massive ending to a football game out there in Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, man.
And you guys felt it necessary to make the show notes, even though I've kind of given my thoughts on it already. Madden offense. Y'all call plays like video games, dog. Do not care about down distance formation personnel out at Colorado. They in 11 personnel. They in 3x1. They chunking it deep. Period. Point blank. End of story.
And see, that's kind of why I want to talk about this because I've realized something about watching Colorado these last few seasons. For the second year in a row, Colorado has given us one of the most exciting college football-like games we've seen. You had student section stripping in the end zone, field storm, overtime win. It was a game that in December is not going to matter at all, but for a bunch of 18 to 20-year-old kids, it was the best night of their lives. And I think that's what college football is all about. I don't think Colorado is anything special to talk about when it comes to the national level, but they are one of the more college football-like teams in the sport right now.
Yeah, they're a video game.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so fun to watch.
They're a soap opera.
And whether you like it or not, it's still entertaining to watch. So I'm gonna for now hold my insults on Colorado. You know, all the Deion Sanders talk. I know he's eventually going to say something in a presser that's going to get him in hot water. He's eventually going to say something that's like, "Why would you say that?"
You mean like after he asked the world why Shador and Travis aren't already Heisman winners?
Exactly.
And then the week after they throw a pick six and lose to Nebraska
Precisely.
by quite a bit.
Exactly like that. Exactly like that. But you know what? You have to accept that they are not operating in the same realm that everyone else is in this sport, and I kind of love it.
I think they're doing the perfect thing, or I think at this point Deion's doing the perfect thing for his football team of, all right, let's try and push as hard as we can to get Travis Hunter a Heisman, and then let's make sure that Shador Sanders puts up numbers. And that's what – I mean, that's kind of what Deion's hitched his entire wagon to at Colorado is – not necessarily winning football games, I would say, but it is we're going to be a fun football team that's going to draw a lot of eyes, and these two kids are going to be the reason why. It's going to be because of my son, and it's going to be because of Travis Hunter. And Travis Hunter is playing like the top player in college football right now, and that's fun. That's going to get people watching you, and it's going to do all the right things for your program for what it is now. I'm not saying that this is going to produce a 10-win season now, like you're going to go win out the rest of your conference schedule or anything like that. But I think for what Colorado is, where that roster is, and where their issues are, I think you're doing the right things to kind of cape over it.
Mm-hmm.
We also should probably talk about how horrible the ending of that game was for Dave Aranda.
I didn't watch the end. I looked up. It was on a middle screen. I looked up, and it was a Hail Mary situation. And then I didn't watch it.
Was it pouring rain the whole time?
Yeah.
It was pouring rain the entire
rain.
fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad. I mean, you
Just
call it
bad for Aranda?
Well, they called a heavy blitz on a Hail Mary play.
Oh, yeah, you can't do that.
It's just a bunch of different things where it's like
I feel like those are kind of lose-lose situations though, because you get the crowd that, why are we only rushing three? He's got to throw it deep. Why not just kind of send the house at him and get him down early? And then if you do send the house, they take the top off of you. Like, why are we rushing everybody when we could just drop back everybody?
Well, it wasn't just a Hail Mary. It was like a deep fourth down that they can.
No,
do.
yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of bad coaching decisions by.
They
Dave
converted
Aranda
a
there.
4th and 19.
Yeah.
Didn't they? And then turned around and hit the Hail
And
Mary
nobody
too.
played the ball. It felt like it was just like, oh, it's not going to get caught.
Well, as much crap as we give, at least this channel and myself, a couple weeks ago we talked about how poorly coached they were, right? And how many busted assignments they had against Nebraska, and how just the film alone was relatively embarrassing is the wrong term, but there's no room in college football for busted assignments over and over and over again. It points directly to coaching. A busted assignment every once in a while, two guards hitting each other when they both pull on counter, Clemson, Atlanta Falcons. Sometimes that stuff will happen. Multiple busted assignments, not very good coaching. However, they called and executed the perfect Hail Mary. They put Travis Hunter on one side, and he asked for that so he could be doubled and triple teamed, take attention away from everybody else. And then they also ran a pseudo pick in the end zone on that Hail Mary. So the Hail Mary was coached and executed properly, and you have to give credit to that, no doubt. All right. Guess the lines?
Guess
the lines presented by our friends over at BetUS. Are you looking for a new book this season? BetUS is the answer. Head over to BetUS right now. Okay, use promo code YouTube150 for a 150% deposit match on your first deposit up to $2,000 and 125% on the next two deposits over there on BetUS. What do we got first, my man?
Oh, it's the biggest one of the weekend. We're going to start off
the
hot.
granddaddy of them all.
It is. We're going with Georgia at Alabama to start things off.
Georgia minus 2.5.
I was say I've kind of known this line for a while.
That's why I went ahead and got this one out of the way. I mean, it's kind of hard for none of us.
I'll go Georgia minus 3 just because.
Okay, well, it is Georgia minus 2.5.
Ooh!
Everybody give a golf clap to Brooks for knowing that one. All right, now we're getting into the real contest.
A dub.
We got an interesting matchup here. Just probably a defensive rock fight here. Oklahoma at Auburn.
Oh, defensive rock fight for sure.
Very much a defensive
We're going to
rock
look
fight.
up, see a 6-3 game midway through the third quarter, probably.
Yeah.
Some interesting quarterback playing decisions here. Do we see 4 quarterbacks in this football game?
I think we do.
You think we do?
Yeah.
2 from Auburn, 2 from Oklahoma?
You think Jackson Arnold gets back into the mix?
I think Jackson Arnold's probably applying for a red shirt right about now.
That's what I was going to say.
I would be.
Buddy making phone calls.
Yeah, probably. But Buddy probably getting phone calls? Yeah?
A little bit of both.
I can't quite remember. Where did the Jackson Arnold recruitment come down to? Because I thought it was just Oklahoma.
Pretty much.
Because he was like this really highly touted kid that committed, I'm pretty sure, pretty early to Oklahoma. And then I don't know if there were any other suitors for that one. That's a Midwest kid. So I don't know what his options are from a transfer standpoint. But nonetheless,
Yeah.
interesting football game.
Yeah.
It's on the Plains.
It is. I trust Oklahoma's defense more in this situation. The Plains do give you a little bit of an advantage, and I think that's probably what you're going to see a lot of action on. But Oklahoma like minus 4, I think.
I'm going to go Oklahoma minus 3.
Brooks takes it again. Oklahoma's minus 2.
Look at the kid.
Wow.
Sooners favored in that one. We got another SEC matchup
That's
on our
too,
hands.
Hold on. Way too – I don't think Oklahoma should be favored in this football game. I know Auburn's bad, but that's a really tough place to play for anybody, let alone 2 guys trying to figure out how to play quarterback in Hawkins and Arnold.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You get to a certain point of the Auburn season where it doesn't become a tough place to play. Auburn's a tough place to play when the fans want to get up and are excited and want to actually be there and support their team to win the game. When a Georgia comes to town, or when an Alabama comes to town, or when a top 15 SEC opponent comes to town, that Auburn crowd didn't seem to have much of an effect on Arkansas.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, Auburn's home field advantage is home field advantage to the max when it's a truly meaningful game that the fans care about. If it's a noon kick between another SEC school and you're both two lost teams, it's like, we don't give a shit.
And really hard to get lit and be really, really happy about where you're at when your quarterback's got 5 turnovers.
For sure.
Looks like Arnold's commitment came down to Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Ole Miss.
Checks out.
Maybe he's the Lane Kiffin future at Ole Miss.
If he stays.
Hey, committed to Jeff Levy's not at Mississippi State now, but
Yeah.
I was going to say, hey, committed to Jeff Levy. But, either way. Jackson Arnold, free agent is what we're saying.
Very much so.
Very much so, free
All right,
agent.
Brooks up 2-0. Here we go. Another
Hell yeah,
SEC
he is.
matchup. Kentucky at Ole Miss.
Kentucky at Ole Miss.
Kentucky a top 15 scoring defense right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
you put up 13 against Georgia and then play nobody. You're going to have a good scoring
My
defense.
Bobcats let them have it.
Give me Ole Miss minus 16.
I'll go Ole Miss minus 13. I think the defense is probably giving you a little better bump.
Now, you got to remember,
it's
Georgia
on the
Georgia
road.
was favored by 22.5 on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Ole Miss at home, probably a little bit larger, I would think.
Yeah.
Not larger than 22, but larger than your 13 or 14 you just said.
Oh, well, I'll stick with it.
What do we got?
Well, I guess we know what happens when Kirby doesn't cheat. Brooks up 3-0. Ole Miss minus 17.
God plays
right.
it fair.
First
God plays
of
it
all-
fair and gets waxed out here.
First of all, I'm being accused of cheating. He's been a half point off every single time.
I don't know what you're accusing.
I'm not
False
accusing anything.
accusations.
I'm making it a
False
I'm stating a
accusations.
fact.
Oh, this is fact.
He's been a half point off.
I'm going to
every
need
single
some
game.
evidence here, okay?
Maybe I'm just good today.
Maybe.
Maybe it's just his day.
Maybe.
I'm just dialed. Just
We'll-
absolutely
We'll
dialed.
really find out right here. We'll step out of the SEC for a little bit.
Somebody
Oklahoma
asked if
State.
I'm married. Yeah, I'm married. I have a wife.
Oh, some suitors looking for you, huh?
I guess. I don't know. Justin's asking questions in the chat.
Interesting.
All right, we got Oklahoma State at K-State. A big-time Big 12 matchup.
Oklahoma State
Disgusting.
at K-State. The under on this has got to be set in under 30.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 32. Give me K-State favored by 3.
I'll go. I don't think K-State's going to be favored in this game.
You don't?
That BYU performance, as we all know, probably not as bad as it looks on the scoreboard. I think Oklahoma State's probably favored. I'll go Oklahoma State minus 5.
Oh, you are in the right direction, kind of, but just on the wrong side. It was K-State minus 4.5.
You like value there, huh?
Yeah.
That's going to be in the best bets for you
Perhaps.
tomorrow night.
We'll see.
Oh, a
All
good
right,
tease.
little-
Had a
right there.
rough
little
weekend,
tease
so-
on the best bets.
Well, we already have our claimed winner for the week, but we'll keep going because Brooks has already won 4. We got 2 games
Hell
left.
yeah, he did.
All right, so we got Louisville at Notre Dame.
Notre Dame minus 5.
I have Notre Dame minus 6 on mine.
That's fair.
I think Louisville,
I
as
think I'm low.
they beat Georgia Tech fairly that last game, but teams
They
that
had a
can
bye week
run.
last week.
No, they beat Georgia Tech.
That was 2 weeks. Was
No,
that
this was his last
weekend.
yeah,
Georgia
yeah,
Tech
you're
had a
right, you're
chance
right,
to win
You're
that
right. You're
football
right.
They
you're
beat
right.
Georgia Tech thanks to 2 special teams touchdowns.
Yeah.
So teams that can run the ball can run the ball
And they had a
successfully.
weird Haynes King fumble in the red zone. I don't know
Yes.
if y'all saw
Yeah, it
that.
was not
Yes.
Georgia Tech's cleanest football game.
Very
No.
ugly game. So I think that teams like Notre Dame that can kind of run the ball and kind of want to run the ball have proven to give Louisville a little bit of problems. I'll go Notre Dame minus 6.
Well, you can't call it a comeback, but you can't call it a skunk either. Kirby takes it. It's a Notre Dame minus 6.5.
Sweet.
All right, our final game of Guess the Lines for this week. We've got Illinois.
Presented by our friends over at BetUS. YouTube 150, 150% deposit match on your first one.
Illinois at Penn State.
The fighting Luke Altmyers, huh?
That's right.
Shout out Brett Bielema.
Making them waves.
Undefeated Illinois versus undefeated Penn State.
Penn State minus 6.5.
I think it's heavier than that. I would go Penn State minus like 14. I don't think that people are really buying it. Look, the win against Nebraska was really good. Nebraska is still not a great team. I don't think that it holds much value to a team like a roster like Penn State. I got Penn State by double digits here.
It's Penn State minus 17.5.
Too much.
I think so too.
That is a
Way
lot.
too much.
I think
That is
that's
a
way
lot.
too much as well.
This team struggled with Bowling Green.
Mhm.
This team struggled
To
with
be
Kent
fair
State
though,
for a half.
Bowling Green might be sneaky good.
Bowling Green kind of good.
Been given some Power 4 teams issues.
Put some respect on them.
Put some spect on Bowling Green's poop unis.
What can Brown do for you, baby? It can do a whole lot.
Ugh,
I'll tell you that much
disgusting.
right now.
So gross.
Connor Bazelak coming for blood.
Is there any college in any sport uniform that has brown in it that's like good?
No.
Who? I mean,
Cleveland's the only one I can
Cleveland's
think of.
trash. I hate the unis.
Yeah, Cleveland, Wyoming, and Bowling Green are like the only teams I can.
Wyoming's I
think of that
can get behind sometimes,
I don't
but
like
they use
yellow.
brown as an accent.
Yeah. No, you
Nah,
can't do it. You
man.
can't pull off brown. No one's out
I
here pulling
agree.
off brown. Now, a good poo suit, a good brown suit. I have a poo suit. I have a poo suit upstairs. It looks good. Brown came in as a color in suit waves, I would say about 2 years ago. So
I think the
just never going to fit in unis, though.
the
Ever.
important thing though, if you're going to use brown as like your main color, you got to have a lot of good accent colors with it that
For
take
sure.
your eyes off of the brown.
Yeah,
For
it can't
sure.
be a
It was
burnt
a-
orange.
It was a wedding suit for a buddy of mine that got married. We all had to wear poo suits. And he bought us, what do you call those things that Philip Rivers used to wear? Bolo ties?
Bolo ties.
He bought us bolo ties with like accentuant colors for it.
Interesting.
Accent colors, not
Very
accent.
Sensual.
Must have knocked it off the desk. Jesus.
We good?
I think we're good.
All right, let's toss it to the local hour. It's a great one. We're going to preview this big, massive football game coming up because I know you guys have been wanting us to.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You really like that? Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back in to the Film Guy Network for another loaded hour. It's the local hour. We finna talk that dog. Massive football game coming up this weekend. Got a great one planned for you. I got Kirby presser notes. I got Bama defensive film notes. I got injury updates. I got Kirby. Kirby apparently has a stat for us
It's
tonight.
a stat.
Move out the way. Move out the way.
I'm
Dr.
unemployed.
J. Will's category is getting, confiscated tonight by our man Kirby. What did we learn during the bye week? We got some lists for you there. And three keys to the win coming up tonight on the local hour. Boys, first and foremost, shout out to BetUS. BetUS, 100% or 150% deposit match over there using promo code YouTube150. Okay, 150% on your first deposit up to $2,000, 125% on your next two deposits. Again, using promo code YouTube150 over there on BetUS. Shout out to those guys. Shout out to you guys for being here tonight. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button. We got another great hour coming for you guys right now. Boys, I did a film study today, and I'm sure everyone watching this has already watched it. If you haven't already, feel free to do so after tonight's broadcast. There's a lot of tremendous information over there. Broke down the Alabama defense. I think that's where we should start, guys, with my notes on this Bama defense. Feel free to stop me, ask questions at any point during this rambling. All right. First and foremost, dudes everywhere. Dudes everywhere, as you would expect from an Alabama defense. I'm going to rattle off some numbers for you. I think these guys are absolutely 100% verifiable NFL football players. Keon Saab, number 3. Quay Rousseau, number 4. My man Jihad Campbell, number 11. Dante Lawson, number 0. Justin Jefferson, number 15. Keon Saab made the list twice, actually. Number 13, Malachi Moore. Number 8, Devonta Smith. I think all of those football players are not only NFL football players, those guys flash on tape like anybody else in college football. These are really, really, really good football players. They play a 4-2-5 personnel, okay? They have 4 down linemen or potential rushers on the field, 2 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs. However, there's no front that they don't play. There's no one front that they do play. They'll line up 3 guys left of the center, 1 edge rusher out on the end. They'll line up 3 down linemen with 1 what I would call a rover football player. They play a ton of man-to-man coverage, all right, does Alabama. When they aren't playing man, they disguise coverage as such. They're going to line up looking like they're playing man coverage on almost every single snap. If they don't post snap, they're moving most likely to some type of Tampa 2, or at least that's what they did in their last football game. I don't know how much this defense changes, guys, with Quay Rousseau not available. I don't know if he's going to be available. We're going to talk about that in our injury report. But they use this guy in a very unique fashion. With that 3-down look, he will play the rover position. He'll just kind of walk around near and around the line of scrimmage and lurk and lurk and lurk and then fire and plug and flash. Okay, it's a really, really good football player. I don't know how much more they continue to do this stuff if he's not available. I think they moved to this because he does have such a unique skill set. He's 6'2 and a quarter, 245 pounds, rushes the edge really, really well, but not quite big enough to hold up on the line of scrimmage all the time. Who's that sound like? Jalen Walker. I'll answer it for you. They're using him kind of like Georgia uses Jalen, just a little bit more uniquely, if you will. Georgia's using Jalen in a variety of positions, but asking him to kind of do what those positions do. They're not allowing him to play a position and creating a new position for him like they are at Alabama with Quay. Most important thing I have on these notes for you, they absolutely hunt the football. They hunt the ball. They pursue and they rally to the ball as hard as any SEC football team you'll see on tape, as hard as any football team on tape not named Tennessee right now. The only team flashing to the football harder and more aggressively and with intent to kill is Tennessee. Outside of that, it's Bama and Georgia right there, bang, bang. All right, so these football teams are going to rally and run to the football. If you think you can't be ran down, Tyler Van Dyke, for some random reason, believe me, you will walk off in probably some type of cart if you're not careful. If you think you're not getting caught, you might. Dude, it's what happened. Watch the film. He thinks he's got the edge. He thinks, I can just run out of bounds. Boom, 19, 6'5", 245. Runs me down like a deer, and now my season's over. Like that. Don't ever think you can take a snap off. Don't ever think the play is over, because it is not. The team speed is 100% noticeable. In my opinion, not the defensive line, interior defensive line, but everywhere else, I do think depth is a concern. I do think depth is a concern from Alabama from this standpoint. The drop-off from 1s to 2s is very, very noticeable. I'll talk about these 2 linebackers. I'll talk about 11. I'll talk about 0. I'll talk about 15. You won't find me talking about a 4th linebacker. I'll talk about Devonta Smith. I'll talk about Malachi Moore. I'll talk about Keon Saab. You won't hear me talk about a backup safety. I'll talk about Damani Jackson being really, really good. I don't know if they have a 3rd corner. I don't know where the depth on this roster ultimately is. I don't know how absolute quality it is. The starters are elite. I think the backups are just good. Okay, that's a drop-off between the starters and the backups, as most programs have. All right, but not Alabama historically. Alabama historically has rolled a 2 deep of starting caliber SEC football players. I don't know if they 100% have that now, but right now, through 3 or 4 games, they haven't necessarily needed it. I do think, guys, they have a tendency to bust assignments. All right, because of the way that they disguise coverage, I think when they go from man to zone, sometimes they can let some things slip, particularly vertically. All right, they just haven't played a quarterback right now that can hit those things. Motioning late and playing with tempo does create some bust on this defense. We saw Wisconsin do it in that film study that we had. Here's the problem with that analysis point. I don't know how much of that stuff and how much confusion, how much pre-snap motion, how much playing with pace and playing with tempo. I don't know how much we can do of that on the road. I don't know how much as an offense I can do that in Bryant-Denny Stadium because of the atmosphere and just how loud it is. One of my last notes for you, they have a variety of body types on the defensive line, interior defensive line in particular, for a reason. Okay, they have 3 body types. They got 6'2", 330, nose tackle, fire plug, Tim Keenan, absolute bulldog in the box, all right? 6'4", 310. These are their D tackles. They play on early rushing downs. These are real long-armed, athletic but not elite twitch football players, okay? If you're a Georgia fan listening to this, think Xavier McLeod, think Nazir Stackhouse, think Kristen Miller, okay? Then they have this other body type that's reserved for 3rd down rushes. I call these rush 3s, okay? These are 3 techniques that can rush. These guys are about 6'3", 285. They got a couple of these guys they'll rotate in on 3rd down. What you should know as an offensive lineman is that their body type will indicate their usage. Okay, if I see a body type coming out to me that's 6'2", 330 on 1st down, fire plug. The dude's in there to stop the run. If I'm passing the football and that guy's in there, I should expect what? I should expect a bull rush. All right, if I'm out on the field and I see a 6'3", 310-pound defensive tackle over me as a guard, I should expect some type of power first, counter move afterwards. If I see a 3-tech come out and he's 6'3", 285, buddy, you fitting to get the whole bag. We all understand we have a very specific body type, and those body types are used to that specific body type. Corners, in my opinion, are gettable. And the only thing on this defense that I watch over and over again, and I'm like, ooh, Wisconsin's open. If Wisconsin's open, Georgia's going to be open in some extent. And those, hey, that guy's open. Against man coverage, 9 times out of 10, it was providing itself against one of these corners.
I'm going to ask this question because I have a feeling there's going to be quite a few Georgia fans that are going to have the same question of Kentucky did a good job of disguising defenses, and it felt like that kind of put Georgia off of its game. Is that something that they should be worried about heading into this matchup?
So Kentucky did a good job of disguising cover 3 and playing cover 4, or disguising cover 4 and playing cover 3. We're talking about a football team that's going to line up in man and play zone. A little bit different, right? I think the second one's easier to dissect, okay? If I see you lining up in man coverage, but like we saw on tape, they're looking at me. Let's go to 1. Okay? So a breakdown for you guys at home that don't necessarily speak football language like the rest of us, okay? If I am in man coverage, come stand in front of me for me, Kirby. Okay? If I am in man coverage and I have a wide receiver right in front of me, I'm going to be staring at that wide receiver. Come stand right in front of me. Put that back to the audience. Actually, let's do this. That's what I was saying. Yeah, you're right. All right, so if I'm in man coverage, I'm going to be staring at him. But if I'm disguising man coverage and you guys at home are the quarterback, I'm going to be lined up like this, but my eyes are going to be in here because I've got to see when the ball is going to be snapped so I can drop into my zone coverage. But if I'm in man, I'm going to be staring right here the entire time. Downset Hut, I've got to travel with him. Wherever he goes, I'm going, right? So that right there, huh?
Did you forget to turn the live on?
Yeah, I definitely forgot to turn the live on. That's me. But y'all, I hope y'all heard that.
Man, I got on my seat for
either
nothing.
way, okay, you see what I'm talking about, all right? When I'm playing man coverage, my eyes are going to be locked on the guy that I'm covering in man coverage. If I'm going to end up disguising man and dropping off into zone, right as the ball snapped, I've got to put my eyes on the cue because ultimately I'm playing chest up and eyes up to the quarterback in my zone coverage. So I think this is something that, by the way, we picked up on tape. I 1,000% believe Carson will be able to pick these things up in game.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're Alabama, we got to be doing one of these out of the corner of the eyes. All right. We can't be bringing our whole head and face mask to where we're looking. We kind of got to be peeking out of the corner of our eyes. And if you're the quarterback, we have to identify coverage pre-snap, confirm coverage post-snap. Confirm coverage post-snap. It's the most important thing. One thing I will tell you about this Alabama defense, another thing I should say that I will tell you about this Alabama defense, when you go empty, they're going to play man. They're going to play man, and everyone else that isn't in man coverage is going to have eyes on the quarterback, okay? So Wisconsin did this last week where, they got 3 or 4 wide receivers out in the route. Alabama's rushing 3. They've got 4 wide receivers out in the route, all 4 of which are in man coverage. We've got 4 guys in man coverage, 3 guys rushing. That's 7 dudes total. Now all of a sudden Alabama's defense has got 4 sets of eyes on the quarterback, and everybody else is in man coverage. Buddy, you're going to have a hard time throwing the football into those windows, right? So the other thing I noticed on film is that you're going to have to extend plays at quarterback, all right? If they're adamant on rushing 3 and dropping 8, which I know it was Wisconsin. I know Wisconsin is an air raid offense by design, even though they're terrible at executing it. I know that they may not do that against Georgia. But if they do, Carson's got to be willing to hold on to the football, extend plays with his legs, all right, and find somebody running the grass towards the end of the plays. Because I promise you, if they're dropping 3 or rushing 3 and dropping 8, there's not going to be an immediate answer. There's not going to be, ooh, that guy's wide ass open right now on my primary read. No. 1, 2, 3, extend. All right, now find the open read.
If this defense is clearly willing to disguise man coverage as zone and then zone as man, and then they see the tape and turn on the tape and say, okay, we've got a defense that was disguising cover 3 as 4 and 4 as 3, and it worked out. Do you think they try to utilize that in this game?
I don't believe so. I think this is a dictating defense. They kind of want to do what they do. At least Kane Womack has always spoken about it like that. They do a lot of, mixed coverage and stuff, but predominantly they're going to play man coverage. I heard today they've played 100 snaps on the defensive side of football this year in straight cover 1. Straight cover 1. So they think, hey, we're Bama. we're going to make you play to our terms. And honestly, I'm fine. If that were my defense, I'd play the same brand of ball. We'd play the same exact brand of football. They do disguise things really well. But you mentioned disguising zone and playing man. There is none of that. You can't line up in what looks like zone coverage and then try to man up.
That's
with
yeah.
people.
I mean,
So I wanted to clarify that for the audience. I know what you meant. You just misspoke, but the audience might have heard that and been a little bit confused. That doesn't happen. We play man or line up in man. Might bump the zone post snap, but we're not going to do the vice versa of that.
Man can turn into zone. Zone can never turn into man.
Correct.
It can. You'll just get cooked every single time.
Yeah, you will. Alignment and assignment will be really, really hard to pay attention to. Any other thoughts, questions, comments, concerns about this defense from Alabama?
I was just going to ask, since Georgia likes to use a lot of motion in their offense, how do you still kind of get to that on the road? Is there any version of that you can do while on the road?
I think you got really smart football players at Georgia. So here's how I would do it. What's up?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, come on.
Do you remember what happened last year against Tennessee?
Yeah, lined up
How
early.
you go so early and you're on the ball so quickly that the crowd can't really become a factor into it because you're taking them by surprise. That was what Kirby Smart was so worried about in that 2022 game against Tennessee. He was like, we have to be loud from whistle to whistle because they're going to go fast. They're going to try to get plays out before our crowd can even become a factor. So I think that's kind of the key to success.
And that's something we pointed out on the channel last year is like, hey, if you really pay attention, they're on the ball. They're not necessarily no huddle, and they're still running check with me offense. But they are on the ball, getting everything kind of aligned, making the defense set up, calling their points. Then the crowd gets loud, and then we go play football after that. To go back to your question of how do we create scatters? How do we create motions? How do we create things like that on the road when we're in a hostile environment and we don't want to risk any type of pre-snap penalties? You have a smart football team, a really, really smart football team with smart football players. In my opinion, we would have things that are pre-put in. Meaning, if we call trips right, we're going to scatter to trips right. We're going to line up in duos. The slot's going to transfer from the left side to the right side.
Gotcha.
And we're going to give some type of motion. And we don't even have to make it too complex. We can just say, hey, on all trips formations, the slot's going to line up on left and go right. The slot's the mover. All right, if we line up in duos or if we line up in trips and want to go to duos, again, the slot's the mover. Move over here. We can do different things where if I call this formation, we're going to scatter to this formation. Okay, we're going to line up in whatever, and then we're going to clap our hands and we're going to move in and we're going to scatter in. Or something Georgia's done against Clemson, for example. Georgia would line up bunched, and then they would scatter. We don't have to do anything complex to make that happen. We can just line up bunched and then move our hands and we can scatter. And as that happens, we can kind of see what the defense is doing in terms of moving. But I don't think that's as much as an importance in this game because you know what they are. They're either a man or a Tampa 2 team. Mm-hmm. They're either a man or today they might play 4, or they're either a man and they're going to play Tampa today, or whatever it is. They have 2 kind of curveballs, if you will, or 2 pitches, right? And we can kind of see that based off how we line up, right, with what I was talking about with the eyes of the defenders. Okay? On to Kirby pressers.
Let's hit it.
Make sure you hit that thumbs up button for sure, for sure. And if you haven't already, please go watch that film study. We're going to break down the offense's performance against Wisconsin, the Alabama offensive performance against Wisconsin tomorrow on the channel. So make sure you're hitting us up there. Make sure you're subscribing as well. Let's talk about this press conference today because there was one made available. Guys, Alabama beat reporters traveled out to this press conference today.
Really?
Wow.
And I had to tell Mance, I said, man, you ever sat through one of these? He's like, a press conference? I'm like, no, a Kirby press conference. Like, obviously you sat through press conferences, man. Have you ever sat through one of these? And he's like, nah. I said, 12 minutes tight. 12 minutes tight. Attitude, not going to want to be here. You're going to feel pressure to ask a question. Now, this guy asked Saban questions, so he felt this vibe. Kirby walks in, no opening questions or no opening statement, going straight to questions. We about business today. I got to get up out of here. So immediately to it. I got the first question today. Did you expect, or what differently does this football team do? All right, I know they changed a bunch offensively or staff-wise, right? The whole staff's kind of different. But from a fundamental football standpoint, what are they doing differently? He said defensively, they are certainly different. And offensively, he talks about obviously DeBoer is moving his stuff over here, but he has been adamant about this is the first time I heard him say it was LSU SEC championship game. Everybody runs the same stuff. Everybody runs the same offense. We're all doing the same type of stuff. And I think what he's talking about there is passing concepts. Everybody's running the same combination of routes. Everybody's running the same type of development and type of layer in terms of layering concepts. And he hasn't seen much drastic difference from that standpoint, right? You're still running offense with Jalen Milroe. Talked about, this is my note. IDKY, everyone thinks he's going to say something about Saban. This dude was asked
Oh my gosh, that was
4 or
my
5
takeaway.
times about nostalgia, going back to Tuscaloosa, yada, yada,
Is it
yada.
weird
What's it mean for you?
Saban's
Buddy,
not gonna be
he's been
there?
in Athens for a decade. This is an 8th season. He's played Bama. He's been back to Bama. He's played Bama 7 times since being the head coach at Georgia. I don't know why we got to do this, but he was asked 4 or 5 times about it.
It was weird because it was definitely they were trying to get the story of Kirby Smart's first trip back to Tuscaloosa with no Nick Saban. How's that going to go? And it was just like, this is part of the business. You expect that things are going to happen, and I'm really happy for Nick that he's moved on and he's doing really good things with College Game Day and ESPN and all that. Like, you knew that was going to happen. It was a pointless question to ask, in my opinion.
He was asked how Jalen Milroe has improved, and he mentioned immediately he's improved as a pocket passer. Says he's become more and more comfortable inside that pocket and making throws from that pocket. Talked about how a lot of people look at this guy and they mention about his athleticism. They talk about his legs, and certainly he is a very dynamic athlete. I've connoted him the most explosive athlete and ball carrier when he pulls it down. We all know that about him. The area of growth Kirby has seen most is those professional NFL throws from within the pocket, right? And he also talked about how this guy can get to portions of the field that others cannot with his arm, right? And not just get it there, but get it there with velocity. He talked about how corners can't quite make breaks on this guy's football because he throws with such velocity. And it's something I've seen on tape as well. He doesn't throw with a lot of touch, but he doesn't necessarily need to. He throws with a lot of velocity. He's trying to get it there and get it there now.
Yeah, he's not a layer the ball type of guy, and I don't think the offense is really constructed for it to need that. I mean, it's boom or bust, or it's, hey, hit this 5-yard hitch as quick as you can. So I don't think he needs to necessarily be a guy who can throw over the middle or the finesse plays that comes with being a quarterback.
And I think that's why they've been so explosive, because you make one wrong step, boom, ball's there. 70 yards to the house. It happens so quickly. It's not even just the fact that their offense sets it up or they put the defense in bad situations. Milroe's getting the ball to it very quickly.
Yeah, he talked about it. He said Bama's explosives aren't just explosives. They're super explosive. Like, we're not talking about a 25-yard run.
Yeah.
We're talking about multiple 65, 70, 80-yard touchdowns on the score sheet this year for Alabama. So a very, very – and this is another thing DeBoer talked about today. Time of possession is a falsified stat against Alabama. They don't care. They don't care how long they have it. All they care about is whether or not they put it in the box and how quickly they put it into the box. He was asked about Jalen Milroe again and talked about this football team from a personnel standpoint. They look back at last year and take a look at the personnel from that football team, just trying to find individual tells about individual football players. That's why we would look at that from last year. We're going to look at that SEC football game, and we're going to say, hey, so-and-so struggles with this or struggled with this. Let's go take a look at it in this year's film, see if he's improved on that. Has he gotten better? Has he gotten worse, right? We're going to look at last year's SEC championship game from a personnel standpoint. Talked about Milroe again, talking about him, the challenges that he prevents are immense, and said that the reason it's that way is because there's no predictableness with anything going on with Jalen Milroe. He says the worst thing you can do sometimes is cover everybody. And the worst things you can do sometimes is not cover everybody. I've never really heard that talked about with a quarterback of this nature. And there's a reason why. And Kirby says they've never really seen anybody like this. They've never prepared for anybody like this. And we're going to talk about it later in the show. I think it's a really, really hard football player to prepare for. Already talked about the tremendous arm. He mentioned that Ryan Williams was indeed 17.
Shocker.
Just kidding. He didn't. I did, though. As soon as he was asked about Ryan Williams, I said, he's 17. You can go back and listen to it in the press conference today. Also led by He Paints His Nails.
His sister paints him for him.
Super confident with the ball in his hands, so says Kirby Smart. The moment isn't too big for him, and he said, quote, Jalen does a good job using his skill set to get them the football. I think what he's talking about with regards to using the skill set to get them the ball, extending plays. Extending plays, getting flat down the line of scrimmage, allowing guys to work back to him, pseudo scramble drill. Defense hunts physical and fast. He saw it too. He talked about it. Talked about multiple defenses as well with regards to coverage. They're going to play middle field open. They're going to play middle field close. They're going to play zone. They're going to play man. They're going to play absolutely all of it. Was asked, will Alabama attack you the same? He said, I don't know. Can't compare last year to this year. I think you can from your offensive standpoint. I think we can look at Georgia's offense and say they still kind of do the same stuff. Brock's not there. Ladd's not there. But from a fundamental core standpoint, Georgia's been the same offense in terms of what they do for the last 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what people are saying. You run into issues with that because your identity becomes the same. Kirby Smart said it multiple times, like there's no secret page to the playbook we haven't opened yet. We've been running this offense for 4 seasons now. So there are some tendencies, there are some plays that you kind of get picked up on.
And I think it's kind of a two-way street of it's good that for teams to stay the same in a sense and keep the same foundation because it's easier to replicate that every single year because your players are just used to that. But then also like changing your scheme and whatnot, like Alabama has this year, like changing their defense, it allows them to give different looks and allows teams not to be able to just like look back at recent years and say like, all right, this is what they do. But it also can put you at the availability of having busted assignments because this isn't what you've done over the years. So I think it's kind of a two-way street of there's pros and cons to both things.
We got folks in the chat talking about my hairline.
Uh-oh.
That's nerve-wracking.
It is what it is, bro. Happens to the best.
Oh, I got the hems on it already, dog. We've been putting the hems on it. It was a daily application of the hems. I'm terrified. Terrified.
Yeah.
Can't have it happen.
It's tough.
Can't have it happen.
I
We'll
don't
be
think-
out here putting the PEDs on the head. Can't be doing it. Talked about the starts to the football game. Said I wouldn't say we've started fast. Said sometimes you don't execute, sometimes you get whipped, but also said that he would take the resiliency over this from this team over a lot of different attributes that you could have about a football team. So resiliency, very important to Kirby Smart, as we learned last week.
Yeah. Glad they made it back to the press
And
conference.
had to end the press conference with a tremendous amount of respect for Kalen DeBoer. Tremendous amount of respect.
I was
I've
worried.
never seen him have a closing statement and not an opening one. Like he made an effort to point out that like, hey,
Yeah.
we're going on the road to an SEC opponent. I told you all last time, this is a tough place to play no matter what. It's going to be a tough game. I have a lot of respect for Kalen DeBoer. All right, I'm out.
Tremendous amount of respect. Not
Tremendous
a lot.
amount.
Tremendous amount.
Got a lot of respect.
Got a tremendous amount of respect for Kalen DeBoer and his football team. All right, injury updates. Let's get into it. That's what everybody wants to know, I'm sure, except for the 3 keys to the win, which we're getting in at the end. All right, Michael back and running. Jordan Hall back and running. Warren Brinson back at practice, sounds like. It sounds to me like you're going to be relatively healthy. Okay, and I want to deliver this take like I did on 680, okay, on Friday night when I was asked about Michael Williams' injury. Grade 2, and by the way, preface, this is not sourced information. This is Brooks, the football guy, talking football. Ready? Here we go. It's a grade 2 ankle strain that happened on August 31st, which means it's not a high ankle sprain. If it were a high ankle sprain, this individual would have already been operated on. We'd see him in 6 to 8 weeks. It's not the situation. It's a grade 2 low ankle sprain, which means, to an extent, it's about 2 things, swelling and pain tolerance. That's what it's about, okay? Swelling and pain tolerance, and whether or not you want to put yourself at risk for maybe potentially restraining or respraining your ankle, okay? In my professional football opinion, I think had Alabama been 2 weeks ago, all right, had Alabama been the Kentucky game, I think 2 weeks ago, Michael Williams might even dress up and give it a go. I expect Michael Williams to be a game-time decision. That's what I expect. I expect him to be out there in full pads, seeing if he could give it a go. And based off adrenaline, I don't want to say he's going to give it a go, but I think he might have a chance to give it a go.
I mean, you have a game, a 2.5 sack game. You are a signed, stamped first-round pick. Like this could be, now again, you're going to have 2 or 3 more of these opportunities come the season, and you have to imagine in whatever postseason games Georgia play in, but this is a very big money-making game for Michael Williams.
Yes.
So I would venture to guess on that aspect, he's probably going to play in it.
Good tape job. Good stern tape job.
Spat
Maybe a
it.
couple ibuprofen.
Spat it.
Nah, no spat. But he's going to spat anyways because he always does. A little ibuprofen? Bat.
I've always felt like or leading up into this game, I was like, the goal for Georgia should just be have at least 2 of the 3 back.
Yeah.
Whether it's a combination of Warren Brinson, Jordan Hall, or Warren Brinson, Michael Williams, or vice versa, whatever. I think getting 2 out of 3 back, that should be the main goal. If you get 2 of the 3 back, you're in a better spot than you were with what your roster is now with those injuries.
I think McLeod's fine. Sounds like McLeod's been practicing. We'll see about the rest of the guys. I don't think there's any other. There's no timetable right now for Rod Robbs, no timetable for Tate Ratledge.
Yeah.
Marcus Harrison had foot surgery, but he's not playing anyway. He's a freshman offensive tackle. So on to Alabama's injury report. Quay Rousseau, I would venture to say he's doubtful right now. I would say he's doubtful. I think Malachi Moore is going to play based off what I heard from DeBoer today. Says he practiced all week last week. Richard Young, a third string back for them, is what I would call to be determined, as is Cole Adams, which is a redshirt freshman Wes Welker guy. Okay. Real lunch pail dude. Real lunch pail dude is Cole Adams. So we'll see about that. What I garnered from this, 2 as healthy football programs as you could hope for at this point in the season going into a top 5 matchup.
Thank God.
Yeah.
No excuses. No excuses here.
Well,
on either side of the ball.
The losing team will find a way. Don't worry.
Probably.
It's college football. I know it is.
Well, we know who Georgia fans are blaming.
Yeah.
That's right.
He's already got his name on the award for most hated. So no matter if they score 35 points and lose 35-36, Bobo's getting shit on.
I don't want to get too sidetracked. I think it's just a state of Georgia thing at this point. I think that Atlanta's OC already talking about can him right now. When, my opinion, you went from Arthur Smith to Zach Robinson, that's a bit of an upgrade in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say. So, yeah, pretty healthy football programs going into this one. I think that's about as much as you could possibly ask for this right about now. All right?
Love it.
On to our next segment, which is Kirby. Kirby has some, is this nostalgia stat? How would we classify what you got going on?
This is more of kind of proof that Alabama-Georgia has been the prestige matchup of college football over the last better decade, close to 15 years. So since 2012, Georgia and Alabama have played 8 times. In those 8 games, 7 of them have been top 10 matchups. The only one that wasn't was a top 15 matchup. So they've all been top 15 matchups. The winner of this game goes on to either win or play in the national championship, or at the very least makes the playoff. Alabama was the one exception last year. Obviously, they lost in the semifinal game. No team has come into this game with more than 1 loss since 2012. And the winner of this game does not lose more than 1 regular season game following the fact. So this kind of it shows you that these 2 programs have been at the top of their game for such a long time, and when they face off, it usually has cataclysmic effects on the rest of the sport, and it's usually a good indicator of how the rest of these teams' seasons will go as well.
It's a playoff game.
Essentially.
No, it's a playoff game.
It's essentially a playoff game,
No,
but
it's a playoff game.
no, it's not.
It's a playoff game.
Thank you.
It's not.
Thank you.
There's a chance that you play Georgia 2 more times if you're Alabama this season.
Well, those will be playoff games too.
They will be. They'll be very consequential, but
3 playoff games.
You could get to a point in the season where it's
7 playoff games.
I think that it feels like a playoff.
Right.
I think it feels like a playoff game for Georgia because it's like we said. We said this during the preseason, and I feel like we've said it every week since then. If you lose the Alabama game, that means you have to add in
Win
another
out mode.
You got to win out, it feels like, because losing 2 games, that kind of starts putting you on the bubble. And at first it was just, that means you got to beat Texas and you got to beat Ole Miss. Now you got to throw Tennessee in the mix as well. That's 3 games you have to win out, or at least it feels that way. So I think that this one does feel like a playoff game because it kind of determines what you have to do the rest of the season and the outlook of the rest of the season.
It also feels like a playoff game, especially for Georgia, because if you lose this game and whatever happens else goes on and you don't beat Bama, you win the national title, there will always kind of be that sting of, you didn't beat Bama, and there will be that team and that naysayers coming down and saying, well, you didn't beat Bama this year, so it's not really a legit title.
Well, you can lank and tell them that a natty's a natty, bitch.
Yeah.
Can I add a stat into the conversation?
Go ahead, Jay Will.
You actually asked me about this one last week, so I dug it up for you, and I wanted to bring it to the table.
Is this explosives?
This is not explosive. I can tell you those.
No, I'm good. Come on, I want
This
yours.
is Kirby Smart off of a bye week, or off of more than a week or more preparation.
A week or more prep. This is going to be elite.
He's 16-2.
Hell yeah.
His offense is averaging 36.4 points per game, allowing an average of 19.4 points per game. Do you know what his last loss was?
In a bye week?
Following a bye week or a week or more of preparation.
It wasn't 2020 Florida because you had the bye week before Kentucky.
Yeah, there
He
was no
hasn't
bye
lost
week.
a playoff game.
Nope.
I would say it's probably the Natty.
Nope.
In
2018 Texas.
Oh, yeah. Damn it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten
I
that.
should have known that.
2018 Texas. So the only 2 games that he has lost with a week or more.
more.
They were, in fact, not
The
bad.
only
Lie detector driven. That is a lie.
So the only 2 games he has lost with a week or more of preparation is 2016 Florida and 2018 Texas.
Tom Herman got that ass.
It did.
Insane.
Crazy. That wasn't a Georgia football team. They had a lot of opt-outs in that football game, didn't they?
There was a lot
no.
of
That was the last time Georgia had major contributors opt out like that, though. Maybe Baylor a couple years later, but Baylor didn't have. I mean, there was a lot of guys that played in that game.
Yeah, I mean George Pickens played that game. Jake Fromm played his last
was
game.
a freshman in that game.
I know,
Yeah.
but
He's talking about the draft eligible guys. Aziz played in that game. Mm-hmm. You know,
Swift did not.
Swift did not. Was the only
tried
one.
to.
But he had a shoulder injury.
Yeah.
Remember?
He dressed out and everything.
Yeah,
and
dressed
they
out,
gave him like
gave a
what,
run.
2 totes?
Yeah, something like that.
He tried.
Never mind. Not what I thought. I was about to randomly throw in the fact that Matt Rule takes laps before football games. Matt Rule goes out and does the I'm gonna get a sweat in, and he sprints the hundreds, walks the sideline or walks the end zone.
Gotta respect the superstition.
Got to respect the man's getting a sweat in,
What?
breaking a lather.
What part of that conversation made you think of that?
Baylor, 2019.
Baylor.
Oh, okay.
Baylor in that game. I
Oh,
also took
okay.
I also took a selfie with Vince Dooley that night.
R.I.P.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to find that photo. I think it's on my old phone that I don't use anymore. So those were the stats.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, what'd you learn about this here bye week? Or what'd you learn during the bye week? I've got 5 things.
My biggest one was that
Bad.
My biggest one is that no team has been immune to a dud. I feel like every week there's been a top 10 team where it's kind of like, wow, they turned in a really bad performance. They might not be the team we think they are. Alabama did it against USF, despite that being a 42-16 win. Georgia did it 2 weeks ago against Kentucky. Notre Dame had one against NIU, and then Vanderbilt obviously gave Missouri one this week. So there's a lot of top 10 teams out there that are really, really good football teams, but they also all are capable of having their dud games. No one's safe from it, and I don't think, the one bad game you play in a week is kind of indicative of this isn't a good team. That's one of my takeaways.
I kind of touched on it already, but I'll get back to it again right here. Tennessee has been added to the list. Tennessee is now part of this stretch of games and these opponents that's a must-win football game for you because it's looking like that's going to be another playoff team. That'd be another nice win to add to your resume, and especially knowing that's the last team that you're going to have to face, last legitimate test that you're going to have to face this season, and that's after going through the gauntlet of Georgia, Texas, and Ole Miss. So that's going to be one more stepping stone that you got to get across. It's a good thing you have it at home, but they've been added to the list.
People love the transitive property. I learned that this bye week.
They love it.
I mean, the idea that Clemson beat the hell out of NC State worse than Tennessee beat the hell out of Tennessee State, or the fact that Tennessee State scored more points, and now we get to use that to say Georgia's better than Tennessee, which maybe, but it has nothing to do with how bad NC State is.
The only thing college football fans love more than transitive property is common opponents. Common opponents, they will eat that up. Well,
Isn't that the transitive property?
Not as much.
Yeah, but
It kind of
In
is.
the principle of it.
different, but same.
Yeah.
Transitive property is Clemson beat the shit out of NC State. NC State beat so-and-so. And then
Western Carolina.
Yeah, and then Western Carolina beat Alabama, say, just for hypothetical
So
sense.
therefore, NC State's better than Alabama.
What a heck
Exactly.
of a scenario.
By the way, I said this on yesterday's show. Did you know that the transitive property?
I was going to ask about this.
Yeah, I can make U-Pike better than Tennessee right now.
How long would
I
it
believe
take to
it.
lay it out? Because I wanted to hear it.
All right.
Because I was like, oh, set me up right now. I want to hear this, Nug. And then you didn't.
All right, U-Pike better than Mizzou. You ready?
Yeah.
Dude, there's like 20. This is terrible radio. Here we go. Pikeville is better than Weber because Pikeville only lost to Campbell 33-34, and Weber lost to Campbell 10-28. Weber is better than Southern Oregon because Weber beat Lincoln, California 63-20, and Southern Oregon beat Lincoln 46-7. Then we go to Southern Oregon is better than Middle Tennessee Western. Middle Tennessee Western, or that's Montana Western. Montana Western is better than Montana Tech. Montana Tech is better than Georgetown of Kentucky. Georgetown of Kentucky is better than Campbellsville, who's better than Cumberland, who is better than Florida Memorial, who is better than Clark Atlanta. Clark Atlanta beat Allen. Allen beat Point. Point beat Catawba. Catawba beat Shaw of North Carolina. Shaw of North Carolina beat Albany. Albany beat Central State of Ohio. Central State of Ohio beat Savannah State. Savannah State beat Tuskegee. Tuskegee beat Jackson State. Jackson State beat McNeese State. McNeese State beat SF Austin. SF Austin beat Abilene Christian. Abilene Christian beat North Texas. North Texas, BYU. BYU beat SMU. SMU beat TCU. TCU beat Stanford. Stanford beat Syracuse. Syracuse beat Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech beat Georgia State. Georgia State is better than Missouri.
You mapped this out.
No, there's a website for it.
Okay. I was about to be so impressed that you dug through this many archives.
Impressed or depressed?
Both.
Impressed or depressed?
Both. The fact that whether it was Saturday night or Sunday morning that you woke up and that's what you did with your time. But I wanted to hear that because that is absolutely insane.
That's transitive property.
At its fullest. At its peak.
At its absolute peak.
And you dum-dums are going to Twitter to use it as real analysis.
Ridiculous.
I learned that the ACC is awful.
Very, very bad. And
Awful.
the Big 12.
Yeah, who's worse, Big 12, ACC?
ACC.
Big 12. ACC's got at least a contender, maybe. Big 12's got no one.
Yeah.
Fair.
Even the top
Fair.
Big 12 teams, kind of trash.
Colorado versus Wake.
Colorado,
probably.
All right, let's go Baylor versus Wake.
Well, Baylor just lost to Colorado, so I'm not even going to do it.
Just Google transitive property of college football, and you might find, I think the site is called myteamisbetterthanyourteam.com. Yeah,
Sick.
Literally, myteamisbetterthanyourteam.com. So, yeah, that's what you guys are doing out on social media every time you do it.
I think another takeaway I have from this is that this break came at the right time for both teams. A lot of guys getting banged up. As you'd imagine, it's the fourth game of the season. A lot of teams kind of look slow out the gate. A couple of slow starts for offenses on both sides. So I feel like this is going to kind of, that extra week is going to really rejuvenate both of those rosters and kind of give both teams an opportunity to put their best foot forward when this game starts.
I learned that Carson Beck's not going to win the Heisman this year.
Yeah, that's fair.
The field is so open right now, and the contenders, like the top, I'd say like 8 guys, I feel like now there is still opportunity for Carson Beck to have some big games, put himself back into the mix. I'm making this stance right now just because I didn't think the field was going to be this wide. Like I didn't think that 4 weeks into the season, Travis Hunter was going to be towards the top of this list. I kind of thought Colorado fizzled out. That would kind of overshadow everything.
Well,
I just feel like there's so many names in contention.
Give it 3 weeks.
Give Colorado another loss or two, and they'll be fizzled out.
That's what I'm saying. Give it 3 weeks.
I mean, there's still a lot of teams that got to lose, and you've still got your Georgia. If you're Georgia, your hardest games are still in front of you.
Absolutely.
You go into Bama, you go into Texas, you have a 300-yard game. You're right back at the top of that thing. So
like it's good to put it out now.
Yeah,
that way you're not disappointed.
I think we all learned Tennessee's legit.
Yeah, I said this.
We can just stamp that one.
Yeah, I think I realized that this schedule is ridiculously hard. Like we came in and saying this is one of the hardest schedules in Georgia history. I think it clears that by a million. Like there's not even an argument for that. There's the top 6 teams. Georgia's one of them. Ohio State you don't play. The other 4 you play this season, and 3 of them are on the road. Like that is a ridiculous schedule.
I would say, well, you get Tennessee at home, but on a neutral field, I would rather play Ole Miss than Tennessee right now.
On a neutral field, yeah.
On a neutral field.
Sure.
That schedule got brutal real quick.
This isn't directly tied to Georgia, but I think it does pertain to Georgia. We learned why the shiny new toy is not always the right answer. Jackson Arnold, Dylan Gabriel. You had Dylan Gabriel. You had a Dylan Gabriel who beat Texas last year, won you some big football games, is a good college quarterback. Hey, we got this Jackson Arnold, though, sitting behind him. We need him to get some playing time. He's looked good in practice. Let's push out the known factor of Dylan Gabriel and give Jackson Arnold a run. Jackson Arnold wets down his leg in the biggest football game. Brad Venables, I don't know whatever it is. Bad decision there.
Threw a Brad in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a pretty bad quarterback play, Brad.
Yeah, it was not great.
I learned that. I talked about that yesterday. I think we can safely say that his quarterback evaluation process is flawed.
Yeah.
Because we've seen it 2 times over now. It's not just Dylan, right? We saw it with the Hawkins kid. The Hawkins kid goes in and immediately looks better than Arnold. Immediately. Now, granted, I know, running around like a chicken with his head cut off, but your offensive line is pretty bad. Like, that's might be what you need. You know what I mean? And I think you probably, a really, really great coach who never misses this would have missed this.
Yeah.
They would have found ways to pay Dylan Gabriel. They would have found ways to make sure that they don't have a hole at quarterback, or at least would have known that they do have a hole at quarterback.
I think that Hawkins probably got the benefit of you had a team and a fan base that was desperately searching for. Even Kirk Herbstreit on there was like, "That's the quarterback. That's him. I don't care what everything else." Like, they were so, and you have to wonder, you take away 2 bad fumbles, that they are bad plays. Are the critics coming down that hard on him? I don't think they are. I think that what happened in that game was really bad. Wasn't a great example, but I'm not ready to stamp him as a shitty quarterback.
The only thing I'll close on this with is it's really bad, especially if you knew in the offseason your defense was going to be this good. That's a really bad mistake.
Yeah. If you knew you were one serviceable starting quarterback away from a top 8 program, that's a bad miss. My last 2 observations are kind of tied within one another, things that I learned during the bye week. Number 4, Naeem Offord is a freak. The corner at Parker High School in Birmingham, Alabama, that's committed to Ohio State. My God, 6'2". I'd say he's 190 pounds, 195 pounds. He damn near beat Carrollton by himself. He was their running back on offense, and they would only put him in there when they knew, hey, we have to convert this first down. Sure shit, he would. He'd convert the first down. Then he'd run over on the sideline. I'm watching the game with a UAB coach who shall remain unnamed. And I'm sitting there watching, and all I hear him say is, "Don't you do it. Don't you do it. Don't you do it." And what he was talking about was Naeem Offord standing over 2 wide receivers by himself. He's over 2 stacked bunches by himself. And he's all over there by himself. And the coach is in there going, "Don't you dare throw it at him. I know it looks tempting, but don't you dare." Worse, Carrollton throws a double pass. They throw a ball at the wide receiver that's stacked behind the tight end. Naeem Offord recognizes it, immediately breaks on it, overhand swipes the tight end, beats the block, recognizes pass, swipes the hand of the guy throwing the ball, strip sack, picks it up, runs it back to the house for 6.
So he had a pick 6 and a fumble 6?
No. He had a fumble recovery for a touchdown and also had 2 offensive touchdowns by himself. Yeah, Naeem Offord, stamped, #1 corner in the country. Also, love that Parker was not just allowing him, or not just making him play one corner spot. They were flipping him from field corner to boundary nickel every so often. So the offense from Carrollton wasn't just allowed to say, "Oh, look, #1's over there. Let's just avoid him." It was impossible to avoid him. I thought that was really, really neat from that Parker coaching staff. Wasn't enough to beat Carrollton. Carrollton comes out on top, which brings me to my number 5 observation, thing that I learned during the bye week. UAB should be a whole hell of a lot better. There are a ton of athletes in Birmingham that just don't get recruited. Like, I don't go out there very often. I try to make a trip every once in a while, especially during the spring, summer, during camp evals. Opportunities to go out there. You got Hoover, you got Parker High School. UAB is or Birmingham in general is a much bigger hub in terms of population than I think most people realize. There's a lot of really, really good football players in Birmingham. I learned that this week.
Hell yeah.
Should have known that. I learned that. Did y'all learn anything else?
Nope.
No,
I
game of
just
3.
had my 3.
We finna give them 3.
Oh yeah, I think
We
so.
finna give them 3. All right, 3 keys to the win. The boys got Georgia. I made up 3 for Georgia as well. I'm going to take the Alabama keys to the win. Who wants to go first? I'll go first. 3 keys to the win for Georgia. Key number 3, finish with 6 in the red zone. I think points aren't necessarily going to be at a premium in this football game, but I don't think you can settle. I don't think you can settle for a field goal in this football game, considering just how aggressive and just how quickly Alabama can score. Number 2, you have to answer the explosives. You have to answer their explosives. When they hit you with a shot, we either got to answer with a score or we got to answer with an explosives of our own. The thing about explosives, they don't just flip the field immediately, but it's no different than a dunk in a high school auditorium. When somebody dunks in a high school football game, or high school basketball game, how much does the momentum change?
A lot.
A lot. That's the exact same thing that happens when an 80-yard touchdown gets hit. The momentum in the stadium, no matter the score, goes through the roof. It's exciting. It gets the people going. We got to answer the explosives. Number 1, get him on the ground. Notice I didn't talk about spying. Notice I didn't talk about rushing lanes. Just get the dude on the ground. However, whenever you get number 4 on the ground, got to tackle him when you have an opportunity. Can't have missed tackles on number 4. One missed tackle, 45 yards immediately.
I like it.
Get him on the ground.
We'll give you 3.
Oh, get that boy 3. What do you got for me?
All right, first one.
Ryan Williams is 17, by the way. I don't know if anybody knew that. Ryan Williams is 17 years old.
I need to write an article.
When's he
on
gonna
that.
turn 17?
I'm not sure people know that.
I don't know, but it's crazy that this guy's doing this kind of stuff at 17 years old.
That is crazy.
Insane.
Number 1 for me, take away one of the rushing attacks.
I mean, 17. Dude.
Whether it be Jalen Milroe, Jam Miller, Justice Haynes, I think it's either going to have to be Jalen Milroe or Jam Miller. I would say those two guys. I don't think you can't take away both of them. I feel like that's putting way too much stress on their defense. I think Alabama's offense is too good for you to be able to do that. Take away one of them. Preferably, it would be Jalen Milroe, because if you eliminate that one, that kind of makes life easier on you as a defense. But you got to eliminate one of them, and I think you got to kind of find a way to make it a little bit lopsided in your favor defensively. One way to do that, I think, is eliminating one of the rushing attacks. Number 2, win on second down. This is for both defense and offense. Alabama's converting over 50% of the time on third down as an offense. Opponents are converting less than 20% of the time on third down against them. So they are really good on third down on both sides of the football. So what I mean by win on second down, if you got it second and 5 on offense, go ahead and get that first down. Don't you dare flirt with too many third downs against this against this Alabama defense. And as a defense, get some TFLs mixed in there on second down. Make it 3rd and long and put it in your favor, because they are converting at a very high rate. Get them off the football field. Make sure you stay on the football field. And then the last one, find the hot hand early and stick with it. If Trevor Etienne is cooking, give that man the rock, let him eat. If it's Dylan Bell, if it's Dominic Lovett, if Colby Young's having his breakout game, whoever it is, find your hot hand, deal with it, cook with it, move on forward with it. I think that's an avenue for them to win this football game.
Hey, that boy Jay Will. Give him 3. What do you got for us, Curb?
All right, I got an OLI first.
Oh,
Bend, don't break on defense. Alabama is going to get explosive plays. You can limit them the best you can. They're still going to happen. This offense is predicated on that, and they have too many talented players to not get one. But you can tackle the guy before they get in the end zone and stand tall in the red zone. That's going to be one of the most important things. If you can force Alabama to 3, sometimes 0, keep them from getting 6 on you, like Brooks said, get 6 when you're on offense, I think that's going to be one of the main factors. All right, number 1, make your layups. At some point in this game, Arian Smith is going to be running down the field wide open. Dom Lovett's going to be on a deep cross. You're going to have to make those throws. If you do not complete those, you're probably not going to win this game. You have to make the layups, the easy throws, the bombs that have to have a 100% hit rate on those. Number 2 is don't make the last mistake. Brooks, you talked about this last year, and it reared its ugly head. It doesn't matter when it happens. It could be in the first quarter. It could be the last play of the fourth quarter. Don't make the last mistake. The team that makes the last mistake loses.
Last year it was the fumble in your own end on an end around.
On an end around.
That was the last turnover and last real mistake of the football game.
Natty, it was the pick 6.
Yep.
Exactly. And then the third and most important key to victory is hit the magic number. Here's my stat for the night that was so exciting.
Ooh.
So, since 1895, Georgia and Alabama have played around 70 times, more than 70 times. In those 70 games, the team that scores 30 points first is 22-0. That's right. In those games, if you score 30,
how did you run this down?
I did some.
You got your ways?
I did some stat digging.
This
Here's
took
a better
you while.
one. If you score 30 points in this game, your opponent is almost guaranteed to not score 30 points. The only exception to this was Alabama in 2008 when they were up 38-0 at half, and Georgia came back and was a 41-30 game. So basically, if you're scoring 30 points in this game, you are guaranteed a victory.
It's a race to 30.
A race to 30. That's the magic number. If you can hit that, chances of winning are great.
So what Kirby's saying is, the moment someone hits 30, you run to Bet US, you live bet that shit, put your mortgage on it. You put everything you own. Just kidding. Don't do that.
Do it. But
The stat is fact.
I was shocked
like
by
this.
that.
22-0, first team to 30.
Yep.
Wow.
I'm proud of you. That's
Thanks,
a good
Jay Will.
That's good
Thank you,
stuff
Jay
right
Will.
there.
Move on over.
Oh, no.
We got a new
I'm not.
stat key.
I'm not coming for the spot.
Next thing I know, someone's going to be up on the board doing film study.
Hey. Never know.
I think I know. I think I know it ain't never happened up in here.
Oh, wow. All right.
Maybe.
Well, you just said never, so.
Never. Ain't happening. I got 3 keys to. Oh, are you done?
Yeah, that's it.
Hey, that boy Christian Kirby. Give him 3. All right. I got 3 keys to the win for Alabama. You ready? We got a bunch of bammers.
Let's hear it.
We got a bunch of bammers in the chat tonight. Key to the win, number 3. Protection's got to be clean for all shots. As much development in terms of a pocket passer as Milroe has made, I have yet to see him, left tackle's getting beat clean. I got to step up in the pocket, reset my feet. Now Ryan Williams is open. Deep shot. Not really what's happening for Alabama over the last couple of years. When pockets are clean and this guy can really step into a throw, he's going to throw it 65 yards and it's probably going to be a touchdown. So if you can keep the pockets clean against this Georgia pass rush, you might have a good opportunity of remaining ahead of the sticks. USF had a really good game plan in terms of simulated pressures, not really showing where the blitzes were going to come from, and they got Milroe down. As much development as we've seen over the last year and a half from a pocket standpoint, I still think he's susceptible to not necessarily recognizing where pressures are coming from. So I think that's the most important thing, or one of the most important things for Alabama's offense. Protect this guy when you're taking shots downfield, because if you give him the time, more often than not, he's going to win. Dictate on defense is number 2. I've talked about this with regards to Georgia's offense for a while now. You cannot just sit back, play non-aggressive defense, basically what Clemson did. You can't basically just sit back and go, hey, we're a cover 3 team today. Or, hey, we're a man team today. We're not going to add any pressure to the box. We're not going to change looks. We have to dictate on defense. You've got to attack Carson Beck. In my opinion, if you're standard, you're beat. That's what we've seen from this football team offensively from Georgia the last 3 years really with this system. Last 2 years in particular with Carson at quarterback. If you're very standard, you're probably going to get beat. Number 1, and this was the biggest key to their win last year in the SEC championship game, and honestly, it's been the biggest key for this offense. I think they lose that South Florida game if this doesn't happen. You got to remain turnover free. With this quarterback who had been a turnover, I'm not going to say machine, he had been prone to turnovers last year. Through 4 games, hasn't thrown an interception. I think he has 1 fumble, and that was on under the center snap on the goal line against USF. This guy has not turned the ball over. You're going to have to continue that in this game because I do believe that when Milroe turns the ball over, it's not just in ones, it's kind of in bunches, at least in his history as a quarterback. Just haven't seen him do it this year, and that's been a testament and a credit to him and DeBoer as a staff.
Yeah, turnovers are definitely going to be
key. Hey, that boy Brooks, give him 3. What were you saying?
I was saying turnovers are definitely key in this. I mean, you're going to have to force Jalen Miller to make one, whether it's through fumble or interception. He cannot be –
Can't play clean.
No, he can't play as clean as he has against you, especially not as clean as he played against you last year.
Yeah, if they have 1 turnover in that football game, it's completely different.
The 1 turnover in that game was the difference in a 3-point matchup.
Yep.
Like, you take away that fumble, who knows how that game turns out. So
massively different, I think. Mm-hmm. So there you go. All right, nostalgic
tape.
We got some good ones.
It's good tape, but I don't think it's going to – I think you're going to get it pretty quickly.
You think so?
I was going to keep it quiet. I didn't want to give him any inklings.
No inklings.
He'll know. Yeah, make sure
I've been muted and unmuted on the wrong time all day today. Oh, that's Hateville Charter, and that is definitely Chris Smith.
See?
I told you.
See? It is.
I didn't even need a play today. How about that? The boy is good. The boy is good.
When he said Chris Smith, I said, oh, he's going to get this so quick.
Yeah, let's watch this.
The film
this
is incredible,
tape,
though.
By the way.
Yeah.
Oh, the film's – I'm sure the film's great.
Corner, a little bit of nickel, too.
Oh, Kean. Ski! Oh, yeah, Chris Smith. Little bitty Chris Smith in this tape.
Yeah, this is young.
This is real thin.
I believe it said he had 5 interceptions this season.
By the way, I think – don't quote me on this. I think this is the edge rusher Chason. I think Clayvon Chason played on this team at Hateville, I'm pretty sure as well. Now, Chris, in this Hateville charter football program, was really, really new. I think he was one of the first senior classes out of this Hateville charter football program, and now Hateville's one of the more preeminent high school football programs in the state. Now, we talked about this earlier in the show, so I want to bring our attention back to it if I don't screw everything up. All right, he zone drops here at the start of this football play. I want to show you. Look where his eyes are peeking, guys. His eyes are peeking inside. He's already in a bail, okay? So that's what I'm talking about. No matter how well you disguise it, you're still going to cheat. You have to look at the ball. You have to know when it's going to be snapped so you can drop into your zone coverage. This is a great job right here. Identify an option, towards me and getting out of my zone drop coming downhill.
Good God. A thumper.
Yeah, dude. I mean, maintained it all the way through college. Would throw it at anything, man. Would throw that body. I don't give a damn about me. I want to say it's Cedar Grove. It's not. This is Banneker that they're playing right here. Oh, he tipped that ball, didn't he? Or did he make the pick?
Tips and overthrows.
Yeah. Loafing, though. I mean, come on, man. Go celebrate with your teammate. Just kidding.
Not an NFL guy.
Good pedal. Good pedal. Good pedal. Oh, make the play on the ball, too. Are we cribbing? Are we cribbing? Oh, you already know. Did y'all hear Nick Saban talk about getting to the numbers on interceptions? This is something that I haven't heard about.
No,
and
what
it
is
makes so much sense. Let me roll this clip back, and you can see an example of it right here from Chris. Saban talked about that when the defense intercepts the football, what we're trying to do is get back outside the numbers. I don't have Epic Pen here, all right, but what we want to do is get to this side of the field, okay, these numbers, because all of the bodies are in here. So the moment we get an Oski, interception, everybody run to the front pylon, run to the numbers, block whoever you can, because we're trying to get to the nearest set of numbers and get down the sideline into the end zone. That's a great job by Hateville. You see what I'm talking about right here. We're trying to push everybody inside the numbers, okay, and as the ball carrier, run to the numbers.
You know, it's funny. My high school coach always harped on when you get a pick, run to the outside.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was just because he was afraid we're going to fumble. So, you know, be on the sideline if you do, but.
So, see, I'm not taking a shot at your coach. But this is the difference between knowing what to do and knowing why we're
to
doing
do it. Yep.
Right? Knowing what to do, run outside. Well, why are we running outside? Well, now you know. We're running to the numbers because that's where we have our angles. Okay? Knowing what to do is one thing. Knowing why we do it is a completely different thing that the great coaches always have their players knowing of, right? This is why we do something, not what we do. Okay? So there we go. How about that?
I like it. Day one.
Offensive film study tomorrow, boys. I can't wait to be up till 1 o'clock in the night, just sitting there going, oh, my God, I'd be so scared as a defensive coordinator. It's going to be a lot of that coming up tomorrow on the film study. So just get ready for that one. Appreciate you guys for being here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button on your way out. Shout out to my boy DJ Ology. DJ Ology been sitting back behind the scenes, got everything set up and right tonight, and got us a new banger coming.
A new one?
He cooked again?
A new banger. He's going to cook. He's going to get in the kitchen. He's going to get in the lab, and he's going to cook that shit back up. We're going round 2 on the cooks. Hey, appreciate you guys for being here. Make sure you hit that like button on your way.